Public issues dominate today's House discussion. MPs urge action on inflation, disaster preparedness and protection of citizens' rights. Government announces support classes for SEE non-graded students. Education Ministry to introduce preparatory programs for struggling candidates. WHO monitors cruise-linked hantavirus outbreak amid global health concerns. Incident raises concerns over emerging risks. Post-quake reconstruction homes lie empty in Dolakha owing to mass out-migration, invites challenges in sustaining community life and local engagement. US sanctions 12 Iran-linked entities over oil sales to China, targets individuals accused of facilitating Iranian oil trade. And Scotland edge Nepal by 2 runs in tense ICC Men's Cricket League 2 clash. Nepal falls short at 218. Good evening, I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai and this is NTV World Prime Time News. We're coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepal time. Elsewhere, it's 13:15 in London, 22:15 in Tokyo and just after midnight in Sydney. Now the news in detail. A debate on the government's policy and program was held in today's meeting of the House of Representatives, where lawmakers from various parties also used the session and 0 hour to raise key public concerns. Lawmakers also called for improved budget planning, better capital expenditure and greater coordination between policy and programs. The discussion focused on fiscal management, budget coordination and capital expenditure, with calls for stronger implementation of development priorities. While some defended recent ordinances as reform-driven, others criticized the lack of new initiatives and limited emphasis on sectors such as science, technology, and long-term economic transformation. Several MPs called for consensus-based constitutional reform, improved disaster preparedness in the face of climate risks, and practical solutions to cross-border and governance challenges. MPs reminded the government of its responsibility to protect citizens' rights and also called for immediate action on a range of issues, including the construction of elderly-friendly public infrastructure, timely repair of dilapidated roads, and arrangements for completing unfinished bridges before the monsoon season. Nepal's Minister for Education, Science and Technology, Sashmit Pokhrel, has announced that preparatory classes or similar support programs will be introduced for students who did not pass the Secondary Education Examination SEE. Speaking at a meeting of the Parliamentary Committee on Education, Health and Information Technology at Singha Darbar today, the minister said the ministry is committed to bringing remedial measures for students who were not graded in the SEE results.
हामीले कसैलाई पनि विचार निषेध हामीले गरेका छैनौं मात्र म के एउटा कुरा चाहिँ मान्यज्यूहरुलाई चाहिँ स्मरण मात्र गराउन चाहन्छु भन्ने श्रद्धेय कमरेड मदन भण्डारीले नै भन्नु भएको कुरा स्मरण गराउन चाहन्छु उहाँले भन्नु भएको थियो महाराज यदि राजनीति गर्ने भने स्ट्रिपेज खोलेर आउनु भन्नु भएको थियो हामीले पनि टिचरहरुलाई राजनीति गर्ने भए मार्कर छोडेर आउन मात्र आग्रह गरेका हौ कसैलाई पनि हामीले राजनीति गर्न निषेध गरेका छैनौं.
According to the recently published SEE results, 65.98% of students passed, with 284,160 students receiving grades, while 146,507 students were placed in the non-graded category. These students will be eligible to take grade improvement supplementary exams. The troubled Cooperative Management Committee has started collecting details required to process the return of savings to depositors based on submitted claims. Committee's chair and former Supreme Court Justice Diliraj Acharya said depositors are being urged to submit their claims and necessary documents to facilitate the repayment process. According to the committee, services related to refund procedures and coordination with government or public bodies will be conducted from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. A fixed schedule has been introduced to manage the high number of service seekers and ensure an orderly process. Services such as grievance handling and issuance of account statements will be available after 3 p.m. The committee has requested all depositors to contact the office with required documents on time and has also pledged that the process will be managed in a systematic and transparent manner. Time now for a short break. We shall be back with more updates. You're watching Primetime News on NTV World. Welcome back. Now the remaining updates. The World Health Organization has said monitoring continues after a hantavirus outbreak linked to a cruise ship led to evacuations. While global health experts warn, the situation highlights the risk of emerging infectious threats. The outbreak, which affected passengers aboard a cruise vessel in Spain's Canary Islands, has already resulted in 3 reported deaths and the evacuation of more than 120 people. The WHO says there is no indication of sustained community transmission and global risk remains low.
But they have the sovereignty, so we can't force them to take our protocols. We can only advise and recommend, but I hope they will follow the advice and the recommendations we're making. Thank you.
Hantavirus is a rare but potentially serious disease spread mainly through contact with infected rodents and contaminated environments. April Kising-Lama takes a closer look at what hantavirus is, how it spreads, and why health experts are urging caution despite its rarity.
According to the World Health Organization, hantavirus is a rare but potentially serious disease caused by a group of viruses spread mainly through contact with infected rodents and their droppings, urine, or saliva. People can become infected after breathing in contaminated particles, especially in enclosed or poorly ventilated areas such as cabins, barns, storage rooms, or abandoned buildings. The virus was linked to illnesses reported during the Korean War and later identified near the Hantan River in South Korea, from which it gets its name. Different strains of hantavirus have since been found across Asia, Europe, and the Americas, with each strain usually associated with a specific rodent species. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, early symptoms often resemble the flu and may include fever, fatigue, headaches, muscle pain, nausea, and chills. In severe cases, patients can develop breathing problems or kidney-related complications. In the Americas, hantavirus is commonly linked to hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, which affects the lungs. In Europe and Asia, infections are more commonly associated with hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome, which affects the kidneys and blood vessels.
Dans cette hypothèse-là, de toute façon, le virus en lui-même aurait dû être importé depuis le port d'attache, de point de départ ou d'origine des populations. Et à l'heure actuelle, nous n'avons aucune alerte en population générale, et dans ce cas-là, j'ai envie de dire en vie réelle, sur le fait qu'on a une transmission accrue d'une épidémie d'hantavirus sur un des territoires d'où le germe aurait pu provenir. Donc, vraisemblablement, on est face à une situation très singulière due à des conditions techniques, matérielles et de population qui font qu'on a cette chaîne de transmission, mais que finalement, dans des conditions beaucoup plus classiques, les autorités sanitaires des pays concernés n'ont déclaré aucune.
Experts also warn against sweeping or vacuuming rodent droppings, as this can release contaminated particles into the air and increase the risk of infection. Preventive measures such as keeping surroundings clean, safely disinfecting rodent-infested areas, sealing entry points, and storing food properly remain the best ways to reduce risk.
The hantavirus outbreak linked to a cruise ship is raising fresh concerns about how prepared countries like Nepal are to detect rare infectious diseases in an increasingly connected world. Health experts warn that limited testing capacity and rising global travel on top of widespread rodent exposure could allow potential cases to go unnoticed. To discuss these risks and Nepal's preparedness, we are joined in the studio by senior doctor Sher Bahadur Poon, and let us begin with the conversation. Welcome to NTV World Primetime News, Dr. Poon. It's good to have you here.
Thank you so much.
We are all very much alarmed at how the hantavirus spread is turning out to be so far. If we could begin with sort of a slight history of when was the first time it was detected and where we are currently at.
Nearly 1 decade ago, there was a report where the hantavirus was, a tourist was infected with the hantavirus, and he returned to his country and then it was diagnosed there. Until that time, no one knows about what's about the hantavirus in Nepal. Since then, although there is no any reported cases in Nepal, but we can assume that as we know that it's spread through the rats. So rats are very common in Nepal. Every household you can see the rats. That's why probably as long as in hospital there's a lot of patients with the fevers, but they are undiagnosed usually. So probably there might be even the hantavirus as well, as I can say, although we don't send the sample as a routine testing. That's why I think we are underreported, or we are missing this the disease. I can say that.
There was an international as well in the cruise ship that we're talking about, and that raises an alarm for neighboring countries like ours. How concerned should Nepal be at the moment?
At the moment, I think there is no such, we don't need to panic about this, the virus, But, and of course, I just told that there was one reported cases, but there's no any reported, the confirmed cases of outbreak in Nepal, in India as well. So we should not worry about right now, but that doesn't mean that we completely ignore about this virus. As you know, this is something like I can say it's unusual that it was outbreak in the ship, cruise ship there, and as long as we know that it's not spread easily human to human. Besides one, the species that Andes, hantavirus, it's limited as we know so far, but the current outbreak is alarming for us. I mean, whole world that the hantavirus might outbreak anywhere, anytime. So we must prepare for that virus.
Considering that the symptoms that we've seen so far of hantavirus, it kind of is similar to other issues such as influenza and even dengue. How do we distinguish between the symptoms and how do we diagnose the disease itself?
Yeah, you're right. That's it's really very difficult for us to just by looking at the symptoms and this is hantavirus or dengue or influenza. So that's why we need the testing. We have to include in our routine testing as well if we suspect, right? So that's why we can only identify through the testing system. But unfortunately, in Nepal, there is no routine testing, at least right now, at the moment. So we need to think about that, and in my view, I think I would say that we must add this, the virus as well in the routine testing if the clinician think that the symptom is very similar to hantavirus. So without that, we can't say that it's a really hantavirus, because as you see that the currently the outbreak in the cruise ship, they also did the sequencing that the virus, which kind of virus. I mean, the hantavirus, within that there is a lot of strain as well. So they identify that the strain that it's very common in the Americas. They found that which we know that until now is can be transmit human to humans as well. So I think the testing is much important for us right now.
And do you think our state infrastructure or even the private sector, health sector, are prepared to detect, diagnose this disease?
Yeah, because although right now there's no, I mean, we don't need to be panic about this the virus, but in future we don't know about that, because currently it shows that we must think about in different way. That we thought before that okay, it's a limited, human to human transmission can occur, but this case, the cruise ship outbreak shows that probably we need to think differently, that it's not as same as previously it was thought, So that's why I think we must think, and we must, diagnostic testing we should add in our routine testing, probably in Asia. Although there is a common like hantavirus, hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome, but these the outbreak currently occurring in the cruise ship is a little bit different, but it can occur anywhere in the world. So we need to think and prepare accordingly.
Considering rodents are available everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah, that's the main.
What would warrant checkup, because fever and symptoms are similar to other issues?
Yeah, that's warrant, because it need, I think, and we don't know the current situation in Nepal. As I already told that one case was reported in the foreigner. But since then, in Nepalese, nobody infected. I mean, not confirmed yet, I can say that, because we are not routinely testing. That's why we can't say about whether it's not, infected with the other Nepalese people. So that's why I think we must consider if the symptoms are very similar. Actually, when the infection is ruled out, then we think about the hantavirus, and the concerned body must think about that because it can be outbreak anywhere in the future.
Not to sound very pessimistic, but of course we have to be prepared. Early preparedness is always needed.
We must prepare, yeah.
We've seen pandemics as well, where everything had to shut down. What do you think would be long-term steps that Nepal government or authorities can take to prepare?
I think they should take into account the current outbreak because I already told that it shows a little different scenario than previously we thought. That's why it can easily human-to-human transmission looks like that, because although the final report is still yet to come, but we are presuming that probably it's easily transmitting between the human to human. So that's why I think the concerned body must think about the current situation, what's happening there, and what should we must do. I mean, for our side. So the concerned body definitely they have to information should flow to the public. And not only public, I think they must prepare by themselves. I mean, in the health sector, that if somebody wants to test antivirus, they must give information about that, where they can get test can be done. So this is very important for us. Of course, already I told that it's at the moment it's not very. We should panic, but in future, the current cruise outbreak is giving some kind of lesson learned that we must learn from this outbreak. Yeah.
For our general audience, what would you say would be precautionary measures, if there are any?
It's very simple. I can say right now that's definitely we already talked about that, how the source is the rat, and we must prepare. I mean, we can say as a cleaning, we must clean our surrounding so that the rats will not be available there. So I think the hygiene is the main thing.
Hygiene is one major factor that people should consider.
Yeah, consider, yes.
Dr. Pun, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you much. Thank you so much for calling me here.
Well, we now move on to other updates, where schools across Api Himal Rural Municipality in Darchula district are closed, and the reason is not a holiday. Hundreds of students have left their classrooms and headed to the high Himalayas, joining their families in the annual search for Yarsa Gumba, the rare medicinal fungus that is the lifeline of mountain communities here. The municipality has formally shut all community schools for 15 days from May 10th to May 23rd. After education officials acknowledged keeping schools open during the Yarsa Gumba season is simply futile, with student attendance falling in fact to near zero. Education branch officer Madan Raj Joshi says the closure has been adjusted against existing holiday schedules to minimize academic loss. Every year, entire families, including young children, vacate their villages for up to a month, trekking to remote alpine pastures to harvest the fungus, which fetches premium prices and funds an entire year of household expenses. 10 years after Nepal's deadliest earthquakes, a shocking new reality has emerged in Dolakha district, where half of 70,000 government-funded rebuilt homes stand empty, as villages that were reconstructed at an enormous public cost are now being abandoned. Sudeksha Rajak with Mandira Thapa reports.
A decade ago, the earthquakes of April and May 2015 reduced Dolakha to rubble. The government responded with one of Nepal's largest reconstruction drives, disbursing grants of 300,000 rupees per household to survivors. Of 73,468 registered beneficiaries across the district's 9 local governments, nearly 70,000 signed grant agreements and built new homes. Today, 35,000 of those homes are padlocked, empty, uninhabited, silent. Villages that were rebuilt stone by stone with billions of rupees of public money have been abandoned. The story behind those locked doors is deeply troubling. Many residents had already moved to cities before the earthquake struck. When reconstruction grants became available, they returned to their villages, qualified for the funds, built the houses, and left again. The grant was collected, the door was locked, and the city beckoned once more. It is a pattern repeated across hundreds of villages in Dolka, and it raises hard questions about who the reconstruction program ultimately served. What makes this exodus even more striking is that the state delivered. Post-earthquake reconstruction did not just rebuild homes. It brought new schools, well-equipped health posts, household water connections, electricity, and road expansion to villages that had never seen such infrastructure before. Yet none of it was enough. The younger generation has left for urban jobs and urban lives, and they are not coming back. Residents now return to their villages just once or twice a year for festivals before disappearing again into the cities. Agricultural land lies fallow. Fields that once fed families are now overgrown. And for the elderly left behind, the crisis is deeply human. When someone falls ill, there are often no neighbors to help. When someone dies, there are barely enough people left in the village to form a funeral procession. The reconstruction program met its physical targets on paper. Homes were built, numbers were reported, files were closed. But the deeper objective, restoring viable, inhabited, thriving communities in earthquake-affected areas, has not been achieved.
We're going for another short break here. We'll see you with the international news on the other side. The United States has imposed sanctions on 12 individuals and entities linked to Iran over oil sales to China. The measures target firms in Hong Kong, UAE and Iran accused of helping bypass restrictions. Washington says the move aims to limit funding to Iran's military and nuclear programs.
企业和公民的正当权益。关于伊朗的战事，当务之急是全力避免战端重启。 而不是恶意关联抹黑中国。
Global attention is focused on China as U.S. President Donald Trump prepares for a state visit from May 13 to 15 at the invitation of President Xi Jinping. It is the first U.S. presidential visit in 9 years, with trade, economic ties and global stability expected to dominate talks amid shifting geopolitics. Analysts say the visit could play a key role in shaping future China-US relations, with trade, economic cooperation and stability expected to dominate the discussions. Ahead of the visit, both countries also held high-level economic and trade consultations in South Korea, while a delegation of major American business leaders was expected to accompany Trump to Beijing. A new law has been passed to establish a military tribunal for suspects linked to the October 7 attacks. The court will try detainees on terrorism-related charges, with reports suggesting around 400 cases may be heard. The move has drawn international concern over due process and legal standards. Israeli media reported that around 400 suspects are expected to face trial. The tribunal, to be based in Jerusalem, will have authority to prosecute under multiple laws, including counter-terrorism and genocide-related offenses. The October 7 attack killed 1,221 people in Israel and led to 251 hostages being taken, while Israel's subsequent military campaign in Gaza has killed more than 72,000 people, according to Health Ministry of Gaza. More international news and sports update coming up next. For now, a short breather. Sri Lanka's former President Mahinda Rajapaksa has been questioned by anti-corruption authorities over allegations linked to an Airbus aircraft deal. The 80-year-old appeared before the Bribery Commission in Colombo for more than 2 hours as thousands of supporters gathered outside during the questioning. The investigation centers on claims that funds from a multi-million-dollar Airbus deal were channeled to senior officials, including payments allegedly linked to a $2.3 billion Sri Lankan Airlines purchase of 10 aircraft during Rajapaksa's presidency. Former Sri Lankan Airlines chief Kapila Chandrasena had reportedly told investigators he handed nearly $500,000 in kickbacks to Rajapaksa, though he later retracted the statement. He was found dead last week before he was due to be re-arrested, with the cause of death still unclear. Rajapaksa denies the claims, calling the accusations politically motivated. Those were international updates. Now we move on to sports news. Scotland secured a narrow 2-run victory over Nepal in the ICC Men's Cricket World Cup League 2 match played in TU Cricket Ground in Kirtipur earlier today. Batting first, Scotland posted 243 for the loss of 8 in their allotted overs. In reply, Nepal came close in a revised chase of 221 runs in 39 overs under DLS method, but were restricted to 218 for the loss of 7, falling just short in a tense finish. Brad Curry was named player of the match for his impressive bowling performance of 3 for 43, helping Scotland defend their total in a closely fought encounter. U.S. city of Houston is stepping up preparations as it gears up to host matches for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, with 7 games scheduled at NRG Stadium, which will be referred to as Houston Stadium during the tournament. A natural grass pitch is being installed to meet FIFA standards as part of major upgrades across the venue. City officials expect around 500,000 visitors and forecast an estimated $1.1 billion economic impact. The build-up comes as the 1-month countdown begins for the 23rd FIFA World Cup, which will be co-hosted for the first time by the US, Canada and Mexico. A record 48 teams will compete in the expanded format. Before wrapping up, here's a reminder of our top stories this hour. Public issues dominate today's House discussion. MPs urge action on inflation, infrastructure, disaster preparedness and protection of citizens' rights. Government announces support classes for SE non-graded students. Education Ministry to introduce preparatory programs for struggling candidates. WHO monitors cruise-linked hantavirus outbreak amid global health concerns. Incident raises concerns over emerging risks. Post-quake reconstruction homes lie empty in Dolakha owing to mass out-migration, invites challenges in sustaining community life and local engagement. US sanctions 12 Iran-linked entities over oil sales to China, targets individuals accused of facilitating Iranian oil trade. And Scotland edged Nepal by 2 runs in tense ICC Men's Cricket League 2 clash. Nepal falls short at 218. That's it for this edition of Primetime News. Our next bulletin will be at 2200 hours Nepal time. Do join us through our social media and also get the latest update from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai. Thanks for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
This is The World This Week, your weekly roundup of the latest international events and updates. This is me, Bhavna Casey. In this edition, we bring you the stories making headlines across the globe, from geopolitical tensions and major political developments to cultural celebrations and remarkable feats. We have all that you need. Let's begin with the developments from the Middle East, where tensions continue to prevail between Tehran and Washington. U.S. President Donald Trump says a ceasefire is still in place with Iran, despite a clash between Iran and U.S. naval destroyers in the Strait of Hormuz, for which both sides blame each other.
The U.S. said Iran launched missiles, drones, and small boats against 3 of its warships in what it called an unprovoked attack. President Trump said Iran trifled with us today.
Yeah, it is. They trifled with us today. We blew them away. They trifled. I call that a trifle. I'll let you know when there's no ceasefire. You won't have to know. If there's no ceasefire, you're not going to have to know. You're just going to have to look at one big glow coming out of Iran.
Iran's top military command, meanwhile, alleged the U.S. had targeted an Iranian oil tanker and another vessel approaching the Strait of Hormuz and carried out aerial attacks on several coastal areas. The flare-up comes a day after Iran's foreign ministry had said it was considering a U.S. proposal to end the war. In a further sign of the fragility of the ceasefire, early on Friday, the United Arab Emirates Ministry of Defense said its air defenses were actively engaging with a missile and drone attack from Iran. Iranian state media initially reported explosions in the Strait of Hormuz, describing them as an exchange of fire with the enemy, what it called. Meanwhile, local media reported explosions were heard in Tehran. Not long after, a statement from Iran's top military command said U.S. aerial attacks struck the coast of Bandar Khamir, Sirik, and Qishm Island. U.S. Central Command CENTCOM described the Iranian attacks as unprovoked, saying Iranian forces launched multiple missiles, drones, and small boats as U.S. Navy-guided missiles destroyers transited through the strait. CENTCOM said it had eliminated inbound threats and targeted Iranian military facilities responsible for attacking U.S. forces, including missile and drone launch sites, command and control locations, and intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance nodes. Meanwhile, posting on Truth Social, Trump said that the U.S. had destroyed multiple small boats, missiles, and drones, adding that great damage was done to the Iranian attackers.
Amid these ongoing geopolitical tensions, attention now turns to global public health concerns as World Health Organization says hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship in the South Atlantic is not a pandemic, even as officials confirm cases and trace passengers from the vessel where 3 people have died. An outbreak of hantavirus on board a cruise ship in the South Atlantic is not the start of a pandemic, the UN Health Agency had said. Maria Van Kerkhove, an infectious disease epidemiologist at the World Health Organization, told a news briefing that it was not the same situation as 6 years ago with COVID-19 because hantavirus spreads through close, intimate contact.
The risk to general public is low. This is not a virus that spreads like flu or like COVID. It's quite different.
Health authorities are racing to trace dozens of people who have recently disembarked from the Dutch vessel MV Hondius. On Thursday, the WHO said that overall 5 of 8 suspected cases of hantavirus had been confirmed. 3 people have died, including a 69-year-old Dutch woman who had the virus. WHO's Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said that WHO had informed 12 countries whose nationals disembarked in St. Helena, adding that the WHO is also supporting health authorities in South Africa to trace people who are on the flight from St. Helena to Johannesburg with the woman who later died.
WHO has also informed 12 countries whose nationals disembarked in St. Helena. Those 12 countries are Canada, Denmark, Germany, the Netherlands, New Zealand, St. Kitts and Nevis, Singapore, Sweden, Switzerland, Turkey, the United Kingdom, and the United States of America. In addition, WHO is supporting health authorities in South Africa to follow up people who were on the flight from St. Helena to Johannesburg with the woman who later died.
The woman's Dutch husband and a German woman also died, and their cases are being investigated. Hantavirus typically spreads from rodents, but in the latest outbreak, the transmission between people was documented for the first time, according to the WHO. About 150 passengers and crew from 28 countries are reported to have initially been aboard the vessel, but dozens disembarked on the island of St. Helena on 24th April. World Press Freedom Day was marked this week amid growing concerns over media freedom, with Reporters Without Borders (RSF) saying press freedom has fallen to its lowest level in 25 years. World Press Freedom Day has been observed across the world with the theme Shaping a Future at Peace, promoting press freedom for human rights, development and security. Every year, May 3rd is observed as the World Press Freedom Day to evaluate press freedom around the world to defend the media from attacks on their independence. Meanwhile, press freedom has declined to its lowest level in 25 years, according to the latest annual rankings released by Reporters Without Borders (RSF). Its latest report, the 2026 World Press Freedom Index, details how the working environment for journalists is worsening worldwide. RSF Director General has warned that journalists across the world are increasingly facing legal and political pressure, with their work being criminalized through what he described as an expanding set of repressive laws.
Reporters sans frontières publie son classement mondial 2026 de la liberté de la presse. Il y a 3 faits saillants. Tout d'abord, la liberté de la presse est à son plus bas depuis que RSF le mesure, depuis 2002. Deuxièmement, nous voyons que la tendance annuelle, c'est la baisse très nette d'un indicateur qui est celui de l'indicateur légal. De plus en plus de journalistes nous font part de la criminalisation de leurs pratiques, avec un arsenal de lois répressives qui est déployé contre eux. Et puis troisièmement, les Amériques dévissent dans le classement. Les États-Unis perdent 7 places et puis on voit des pays d'Amérique latine qui connaissent un déclin assez net, assez prononcé. Je pense notamment à l'Équateur et au Pérou. C'est le fait.
The RSF further added conflicts and wars are emerging as a major driver, creating some of the most dangerous environments for journalists, restricting access to information, increasing censorship, and exposing reporters to violence, detention, and even death. Advocacy manager at RSF's Asia Pacific Bureau said that for the first time in the index's history, more than half of the world's countries now fall into difficult or very serious situations.
The overall score deteriorated in 2026, which again is quite a huge drop, because last year it was almost 56 points out of 100. This year is only 54 points. So we have 1 point drop within the global score. And that 94 countries now fall into the difficult and very serious categories.
The report also highlighted a notable decline in the United States, which fell 7 places in the rankings, underscoring concerns over growing challenges to press independence, even in established democracies. Nepal, meanwhile, tops South Asia in Press Freedom Index, ranking 87th out of 180 countries, followed by India at 157th, while Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and Pakistan trail further behind, with Afghanistan ranking lowest in the South Asian region. Now to Central African Republic, where former child soldiers are learning sewing, baking and other trades as aid groups work to help them rebuild their lives after years of conflict and trauma. This program has given children affected by armed groups a chance to return to normal life despite ongoing violence and funding shortages.
In the eastern city of Bria of Central African Republic, former child soldiers are learning sewing and other trades as part of efforts to rebuild their lives after years of conflict. It is a way to help the 14 to 17-year-olds move on from the violence they suffered at the hands of the country's many armed groups. Teachers with the Esperance charity say working with the teenagers can be difficult, as many still struggle with trauma, stress, and lingering effects of violence. The region, rich in diamonds, has long been destabilized by armed groups, with conflicts intensifying again in recent months despite earlier peace agreements and disarmament programs. According to UNICEF, around 2,000 children in the Central African Republic remain associated with armed groups. At the peak of the 2013-2018 civil war, about 20 armed factions operated in the east, though that number has since declined to 14. Survivors, like a 14-year-old girl once abducted by the Unit for Peace, one of the largest rebel groups in the Central African Republic, say training programs are helping them regain a sense of normal life. Others, like a 16-year-old boy now working as a baker, continue to cope with painful memories of exploitation and harsh treatment. Aid groups provide both vocational training and psychological support, but demand is rising as more children leave armed groups through disarmament efforts. However, limited funding, largely due to the recent drop-off in international funding like US aid, has left organizations unable to assist all those in need, raising concerns about the future of rehabilitation programs in the region.
To technological advancement, Asia also saw major scientific progress this week as South Korea successfully launched its next-generation mid-sized satellite number 2 aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket after a 4-year delay. South Korea's next-generation mid-sized satellite number 2 has been successfully launched aboard SpaceX Falcon 9 following a 4-year delay. The satellite lifted up at 3:59 p.m. Korea Standard Time on Monday and entered orbit approximately 75 minutes later after establishing communication with a ground station in Norway. Developed by a South Korean private company, the satellite's primary mission is Earth observation, including disaster monitoring such as wildfires and flooding. It will also support mapping and urban planning activities. Originally scheduled for launch in 2022 aboard a Russian rocket, the mission was postponed due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, followed by further delays that extended the timeline by 4 years. The satellite will operate alongside its predecessor launched in 2021, enabling more frequent revisit cycles and faster production of 3D imagery, according to the Korea Aerospace Administration. Following a 4-month testing phase, full operation deployment is expected in the second half of this year. Shifting from space technology to cultural nostalgia, where Europe witnessed a unique fan gathering this week. Sherlock Holmes enthusiasts from different countries gathered in Switzerland to celebrate the detective's enduring legacy with a dramatic reenactment.
At Switzerland's Reichenbach Falls, around 60 members of Sherlock Holmes Society of London gathered in Victorian-style costumes to recreate the fictional duel between Sherlock Holmes and Professor Moriarty. The scene is inspired by Arthur Conan Doyle's 1891 story, in which Holmes and Moriarty are believed to have fallen to their deaths at the dramatic waterfall. Fans traveled through several Holmes-related sites in Switzerland before arriving in Meiringen for a funicular ride up to the 120-meter-high falls. Participants dressed as characters from the stories, including Sherlock Holmes, Dr. Watson, Professor Moriarty, and others, fully embracing the Victorian theme. Many said the experience felt immersive, with the setting's mist and roar adding to the atmosphere of Doyle's fictional world. The dramatic reenactment included the iconic struggle between Holmes and Moriarty, followed by Watson discovering the detective's farewell note. The event marked the Society's 75th anniversary and brought together enthusiasts from different countries, many attending for the first time. Participants said the gathering offers a shared space for fans to celebrate their passion for the stories and the intricate details. Despite Holmes' fictional death at this site, his legacy continues to draw devoted followers to the Swiss landmark more than a century later.
From historical fiction to cutting-edge innovation, where robots capable of performing a wide range of tasks took center stage at the 9th Digital China Summit, as China showcased thousands of new technologies and innovations in daily life and industry applications.
A dazzling array of multi-talented robot assistants took center stage at the 9th Digital China Summit in Fuzhou City, Southeast China's Fujian province, covering a wide spectrum of daily life and industrial scenarios. The summit features more than 6,000 technologies, products, and application projects with robot assistants among the most captivating exhibits. Replacing human volunteers and performers, domestically developed full-scene robots can now greet and guide guests, dance, and even write calligraphy. Powered by rapidly advancing embodied intelligence, these machines are making the leap from the laboratory to reality. In addition to humanoids, robot dogs are emerging as ideal babysitters and guide dogs. Beyond daily life, robots are also clocking in at an accelerating pace across the industrial sector. Some participating companies also demonstrated the training process for embodied intelligence robots to handle non-standardized production tasks, ranging from sorting diverse industrial parts and taking on packaging tasks.
Thousands of transgender people from across India gathered at the South Indian temple for the annual Aravan festival that offers spiritual meaning and a rare sense of acceptance for the community.
For a few days each year, members of India's often marginalized transgender community gather in large numbers at a unique religious festival that offers both spiritual significance and rare social acceptance. Centered around the Kutandawar temple, the annual festival attracts transgender participants, many of whom identify as part of the transgender, also called Hijra community, from across the country. The event is dedicated to Aravan, a figure from Hindu mythology whose story holds deep cultural and symbolic meaning for transgender devotees. According to tradition, Aravan agreed to be sacrificed before a great battle in the epic Mahabharata, but requested to experience marriage before his death. The god Krishna is believed to have taken the form of a woman to fulfill this wish, a narrative that has become central to the festival's rituals and its significance for gender-diverse communities. During the event, participants take part in symbolic marriage ceremonies to Aravan, followed by mourning rituals that reenact his death. The ceremonies blend religious devotion with cultural expression, including music, dance, and communal gatherings. For many attendees, the festival represents more than a religious observance. It serves as a rare space of inclusion in a society where transgender individuals often face stigma, discrimination, and limited economic opportunities. During the festival, participants report a sense of visibility, dignity, and belonging that is often absent in their daily lives. Local authorities say the event has grown in scale in recent years, drawing increased attention from tourists, researchers, and rights advocates. While it remains rooted in tradition, the gathering is also seen as highlighting broader conversations around gender identity and social inclusion in India.
Thousands of dancers filled the main square in Armenia's capital, turning the city center into a vibrant open-air stage to mark International Dance Day with a large-scale public performance.
Thousands of dancers gathered in the main square of Armenia's capital, Yerevan, to mark International Dance Day with a large-scale public performance that turned the city center into a mass cultural stage. According to the Armenian Ministry of Education, Science, Culture and Sport, approximately 4,000 participants took part in the event. The ministry said the gathering brought together dancers of different ages and backgrounds, highlighting the country's efforts to promote cultural expression and public participation in the arts. The celebration took place in the city's center square, where performers filled the open space with synchronized routines and traditional as well as contemporary choreography. Organizers described the event as part of broader initiatives to encourage engagement with national culture and strengthen community involvement through performing arts. International Dance Day is observed globally each year as a celebration of dance as an art form and a means of cultural exchange.
Artists in Botswana are capturing the energy of the World Athletics relays in real time using live painting from the stadium stands to transform sporting moments into lasting works of the art. Artists in Botswana are documenting the World Athletics relays through live painting, offering a creative interpretation of athletes' performances from the stadium's stands. Commissioned for the event, local artists are using brushes and canvas to depict the movement, strength, and form of competitors participating in the World Athletics relays. The live artworks are emerging as lasting visual records of the event, capturing moments that extend beyond the finish line. Artist Gomolemo Khoshemi Dimos said the concept behind the project is to merge sport and art with the aim of capturing the excitement, energy, and joy of the event.
Well, this whole idea was centered around the concept sports and art, sports meets art. So it was just to capture the excitement, the energy, the joy of the event.
Artist Jode said the project provides an alternative to digital recording, focusing on translating the movements and muscles of athletes into visual art.
Cameras and smartphones to capture moments like this, as we capture it using brushes, canvas, and paint.
Organizers say the initiative aims to combine sport and creativity, highlighting Botswana's creative community while enhancing the spectators' experience. The project has drawn attention from visitors, with artists working in real time to produce pieces that reflect the energy and atmosphere of the international competition. From modern art and canvas to traditional sporting heritage, as spectators gathered in Japan to watch traditional bullfighting, a centuries-old event where bulls lock horns in controlled matches that end in ties to prevent injury. Spectators flocked to a city in Niigata Prefecture to see bulls lock horns in traditional Japanese bullfighting. The event is designated as important intangible folk cultural property. The cities of Oziya and Nagaoka in central Japan hold several matches every year during the season. Oziya held this year's first event on Sunday, involving 36 bulls. The matches have two bulls face off, locking horns and pressing against each other as their handlers shout encouragement. Every bout was brought to an end in a tie to prevent the animals from getting hurt. One visitor in his 80s said it was his first time to see it and he could really feel the strong impacts from the classes. An official from a group promoting the city's bullfighting tradition said he wants to make the city event widely known. The city will hold a tournament every month through November. From traditional events to evolving travel experiences, as Vietnam is reshaping its tourism industry through large-scale cultural festivals and immersive performances that blend history, tradition, and modern entertainment to attract both locals and international visitors.
Across Vietnam, a new wave of cultural festivals and artistic performances is transforming the tourism landscape. These events, which now feature a larger scale and more professional production, are drawing significant attention from both local and international visitors, while also enhancing the overall tourism experience in the country. One of the standout examples of this cultural evolution is the Mystical Royal Palace program at the Imperial Citadel of Hue. This event, a modern and vivid interpretation of Vietnam's royal history, has become a major draw for tourists. Visitors are not only treated to dramatic reenactments of Vietnam's imperial past, but also participate in immersive activities like the Royal Banquet Night and the Imperial Cuisine Experience. Meanwhile, the Ha Long Carnival 2026 is offering a fresh and modern approach to cultural tourism. This event, with its lively street performances, dynamic circus acts, and vibrant dances, has become a massive hit for both locals and tourists. What sets the Ha Long Carnival apart is its ability to fuse the traditions of local ethnic communities with modern international entertainment. These events are part of a broader trend in Vietnam where localities are actively revitalizing their cultural offerings to make them more attractive and engaging. This cultural renewal is positioning Vietnam as a top destination for tourists seeking a deeper, more meaningful travel experience.
Well, it brings us to the end of this episode of The World This Week. We hope you enjoyed as much as we did bringing it to you. We shall see you again next week with a new episode. And please do follow us on our website www.nepaltelevision.com, our social media handles, as well as our YouTube channel. Till then, take care and bye-bye.
music all over the world I think it's a universal language, you know. And basically when it comes to musicians like us, we really get connected when somebody from some part of the music from different part of the world can go well together, and we can do so many different things, you know, because we come from different culture, we come from different perspectives in life, you know.
We started jamming together, and then we were asked to play a festival at the Patan Museum called the Namlo Music Festival, Music and Heritage Festival, I believe it was called. And so we were asked to do that, and I said, okay, I'll put together a band with Prince. And then he called his old buddies from when he grew up jamming with them. I would play a bluegrass tune, and then they would say, oh, that sort of goes like this Nepali tune. And we would just go from one to the other, and then I would show them my songs, and we would do that. So that was 3 years ago now.
Joy and Prince has already said about it. Actually, they both first met each other. I mean, Joy knew Prince's father back in the US, and I was a struggling musician in Kathmandu, and I was friend with Mr. Prince Nepali, and we used to play in some other different bands as well. And once Joy and Prince, they both met, and Prince was like, are you interested in doing something new, something different rather than rock and pop music? What about some fusions and bluegrass and folk music? And he challenged me like, do you want to do it or not? And I was like, okay, I'm up for it. And then actually it's that kind of story.
Actually, I'm planning like I haven't done any like production or anything like this with this instrument, so I'm actually planning for like trying to fuse a different instrument and get some production of different like percussion instrument and our traditional composition. Not just timbre, there are also different instruments like chi, ta, and different folk instruments as well. So I think also I'm planning like to get collaborated with different folk artists and the traditional drummers to bring them together and then make some compositions or just play the already composed things and then just make out some videos and then share it with, maybe on some social platforms like this.
The music that we are doing right now is like a crossover between American bluegrass music and Nepali folk music. And actually, first of all, we came up with an idea of just playing with each other, just jamming together. And we found out that, okay, so this could work very nicely together. So I'm using like a traditional instrument, sarangi, and we're combining this with the mandolin that comes from the US and you know the bluegrass music. And I think my idea is basically to present it like my folk culture and my traditional songs, and also like go together with the American music. I've been very fortunate and blessed to be born in such like musical family. So being a fourth generation, I think I never felt the pressure. First of all, because I enjoyed what I was doing, and then more than that, I think it's basically the kind of fun that I have with music, and I think there's some different intimacy between me and music, you know. So I really enjoyed what I was doing, and I really had great fun. So I've been working on different projects and trying to inspire the youth at the moment in my life. So I have this project called Sarangi Ghar, where I basically have like classes. We also have the store. We do produce sarangi, and I think it's also encourages me to explore with the instrument itself, you know, and the culture itself, because it's so beautiful. And like Nepal being so rich in culture and tradition, I want to like collaborate with different artists, folk artists in Nepal, and all from the world actually, and create different kind of new music with different caste and ethnic groups here in Nepal. They also have their own traditional instruments, folk instrument, you know. And I think you must like find a way to have fun with it actually. And then I think more than anything else, actually, the youths can just enjoy what they have been like with the music itself. And I really actually want them to explore Nepali music more, you know. Youth can basically have like an opportunity where they can just go explore, you know, find an instrument. We have tungna, we have sarangi, we have many other instruments. Like if you go in the western part of Nepal, you have like far western part, you have hudke baza, you know, and there's lots of binayo and everything. And I find panche baza is interesting as well. So, you know, everybody can explore like whatever interest they have. They don't have to take it very professionally. They can just enjoy with it actually. Himalayan Highway is like it's a music that's crossed between the Nepali folk and American bluegrass music. So today we'll be presenting mostly the fusion of like the instrumental thing, and we will be singing a few of our original songs. So yeah, I hope you'll enjoy.
चिसो हावासँग यो मेरो मनको भावनाहरूलाई सररा उडाइ लाग्यो चिसो हावासँग यो मेरो मनको चाहनाहरूलाई पानी परेको बादलहरू अझै पनि माथि माथि घामको न्यानो स्पर्शसँगै इन्द्रेणीको रङ्ग पनि त्यही सररा उडाइ लाग्यो चिसो हावासँग यो मेरो मनको भावनाहरूलाई सररा उडाइ लाग्यो चिसो हावासँग यो मेरो मनको चाहनाहरूलाई मन मेरो खुला आकाशै भरिएको छ जुन र ताराले आफ्नो खुसी यहाँ आफै खुसी उडी जान्छु हावा बनी सररा उडाइ लाग्यो चिसो हावासँग यो मेरो मनको भावनाहरूलाई सररर उडाइ लाग्यो चिसो हावासँगै हो मेरो मनको चाहनाहरूलाई मेरो मनको चाहनाहरूलाई मेरो मनको चाहनाहरूलाई
Actually, our first name was Manaslu Blue. The blue was for bluegrass, and then Manaslu was for Nepal. But then I was, about a year in, I was brainstorming with my parents, and our goal with the band is to bring it abroad. I come from my perspective of American folk music, and these guys bring their wonderful Nepali folk music. And I think the goal of the band is to share this amazing fusion and to show people especially how amazing Nepali folk music is and how much we can do these cross-cultural collaborations. But the thing about Manaslu Blue is that no one outside of Nepal knows the mountain Manaslu. So then I was thinking with my dad, and somehow we came to Himalayan Highway. Highway is a very American thing, and there are a lot of bluegrass bands, Blue Highway, Golden Highway, so it's a common name. And then we thought Himalayan to talk about Nepal and the region. Well, first of all, I just fell in love with Nepali culture. I love momos, I love dal bhat, I love it all. I love this beautiful country. We want to show more people the beautifulness of Nepal. I think that from my perspective, I love Nepali folk music, but in this country, sometimes people haven't valued it. They've looked to the West for other influences. And so one of our goals is to bring up Nepali folk and fusing it. We're not just doing pure folk music, but to show that this is a vibrant, evolving history and tradition that is still relevant today. And then I also think to people abroad, and especially to Nepalis, I want to show them that they can take their instruments and their culture and they can bring it to the world, and that it's so amazing. I mean, everyone who I know maybe they don't know so much about Nepal, maybe the only thing they know is that Mount Everest is there. But then once they try a momo, once they hear some music, then they love it. And so we want to just share this music with more people and share the cross-cultural collaboration.
Cause all day I chugga
and try to shove down all of the hurt. But sometimes at the end, does it fade on the page, and my eyes just run a glaze. And I say, hallelujah, I'm on fire, I'm on fire. And I say, hallelujah, let it burn, let it burn. And I say, hallelujah, 'cause I can finally feel something instead of just nothing at all. And is there ever an end to this breathless whirlwind? Is there even a point of it all? 'Cause at the end of the day, just us back in the fray on this rugged, snowy road. And I say, hallelujah, I'm on fire, I'm on fire. And I say, hallelujah, let it burn, let it burn. And I say, hallelujah, 'cause I can finally feel something instead of just nothing at all. And I say, hallelujah, I'm on fire, I'm on fire. And I say, hallelujah, let it burn, let it burn. And I say, hallelujah, 'cause I can finally feel something instead of just nothing at all. There's a guy on the stage, and he's playing the guitar the wrong way around. And I also have to tell you that that's not his main
career or not, but I suggest them just do it. I know there is going to be ups and downs, there is going to be a lot of struggles, but it's worth it. It's worth it. And yes, of course, don't forget to promote their own culture as we are doing. We just wrote a song like few days ago, and it was so random, but it turned out so beautiful. It's called Samjana Bho, and it's a Nepali, like Prince wrote it. It's a Nepali song, but we are fusing it with the American bluegrass thing. And recently, it's the favorite. Not because it's just written in few days ago, but it has a very good meaning.
स्टोरी चाहिँ चाइल्डहुड लभ स्टोरीको बारेमा हो, जहाँ चाहिँ दुईजना साथीहरू चाहिँ एकदमै स्कुल टाइमको लभदेखि नै धेरै अगाडि बढिसकेपछि चाहिँ एउटा पोइन्टमा चाहिँ जुन चाहिँ केटी साथी हुन्छ ऊ चाहिँ 4-5 वर्षको लभपछि चाहिँ हराउँछ र त्यो हराएको बेलामा चाहिँ केटाले चाहिँ धेरै थुप्रै प्रयासहरू गर्छ खोज्नलाई चाहिँ, तर कहिले पनि भेट्न सक्दैन। र पछि हिँड्दै जाँदाखेरि चाहिँ अब 5 इयर्स पास भइसकेपछि चाहिँ अगाडि गएर हिँड्दै बाटोतिर हिँड्दाखेरि चाहिँ उसले झसङ्ग एकजना चिनेको अनुहार देख्छ है। अनि चिनेको अनुहार देख्दाखेरि चाहिँ उसलाई चाहिँ अब उसले पहिला भेटेको मान्छे चाहिँ अलिकति चेन्ज भएको रहेछ, तर अगाडि जानलाई चाहिँ ऊ अगाडि बढिसकेको हुन्छ। तर त्यहाँ चाहिँ एउटा सानो बच्चाले चाहिँ त्यो केटीको हात समाएर हिँडिरहेको हुन्छ, जुन चाहिँ उसको छोरी हुन्छ। केटा चाहिँ अब अगाडि बढ्न सक्दैन र त्यहाँबाट चाहिँ यो गीतको सुरुवात हुन्छ।
फर्किआएको तिमीलाई भेट्न अगाडि आउँदा थम्याउँदै सकिन भेटघाट सम्झना 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 सम्झना
Well, there's one person who has actually the most microphones, but no vocal mic. He's got a master's in tabla performance, and he's just an amazing percussionist, Mr. Yusuf Maharjan.
So right now I'm using these three stone instruments. So basically, this instrument on my left side is called timbe. So this is our traditional ethnic Newari instrument. It's from Kathmandu Valley itself. Unique sound, actually. It's very bass boosted, and it's one of the very important instrument for our Kathmandu Valley, and it's used in most of the festivals. Like, you will barely see a festival where there is no timbe instrument. So I think the instrument that holds too many emotions of this valley and this country, it should be shared and should be known to the world. And so speaking about this mandal and tabla, and also with the tabla, I would say like all of these three instruments these are one of the really old instrument of the world. I would say like it's more than 1,000 years old instrument. So it's already like history living and the sounding of history, you know. So I think it's really important that the Western music that's not even more than 500 years old is being too much exposed, and yet this more old and more dynamic instrument, not just dynamic, and also the compositions, the sound, the tonal quality, this instrument really needs highlight to the world. Yeah. At first, the whatever generation is alive right now, so they must actually pass down this tradition and this instrument, how to play the instrument, how to blend this instrument with different musics that's available in the world right now. Let's say. To be honest, I'm really proud right now because there is not too much like musicians who are promoting our own traditional music or our instruments. Lots of Nepali people and youngsters nowadays they are too much into Western music, and I'm not saying that's wrong, but I think along with the Western music, I think we should also try to share our Nepali culture, Nepali music. And so this is one of our initiatives to show the world like how can we fuse Nepali folk instruments music with the American bluegrass music, and show them the new taste, how they sound with the fusion of these two different music from different worlds.
Human beings have made drastic progress in the sector of handicrafts with the development of civilization from the Stone Age until the 21st century. These include and are not limited to works of art, sculptures, wood and metal crafts. These handicrafts have also found religious, historic, cultural and archaeological acceptance and significance. Religious texts have identified the attraction of human settlements in the mountainous region of Nepal, which has always remained an independent sovereign nation. Ramapithecus human remains found in Butwal of West Nepal clarifies that human settlement had begun in Nepal more than 10 million years ago. We find historic references of works of handicrafts made by those living in this region. Such Nepali handicrafts are artistic and useful, therefore also successful in gaining international appreciation. Instead of the modern handicrafts, Nepal is well introduced in the international community by its traditional and historic works of art and craft. Millions of tourists who visit Nepal every year observe, study and relish the traditional handicrafts available at religious shrines. The high-quality woods brought from local forests are seasoned before being carved. Nepali woodcrafts are not only popular inside the country, but also have a demand abroad and therefore are exported. In addition to sculptures of gods and goddesses, artistic doors and windows, among other furniture, are made from wood in Nepal. Best examples of Nepali woodcraft can be taken as the artistic carvings at palaces, temples and other religious shrines in Kathmandu, Lalitpur and Bhaktapur. The 6th century woodcraft present at Rudravarna Mahavihar in Okubahal of Lalitpur is considered the oldest. Nepali woodcraft continues to thrive with the creativity, dedication and effort of trained artists. Artist Punyaraj Tuladhar, popular around the world, shares his experience. Lalitpur is popular around the world for its metal craft in Nepal. Works of metal craft produced here had a great demand in countries including Bhutan, Japan, China and European nations. Metal statues are developed using two methods in Nepal: repose art and lost wax process, both widely popular around the world. Repose art is a metalworking technique in which a malleable metal, silver, copper and brass among others, is shaped by hammering from the reverse side to create a design in low relief. Small sheets of metal are cut based on required measurement to form different organs of statues before being welded together. Designs and patterns are then carved into the structure. Gold is plated in some works such as metal craft as well. Such metal sheets are also used in the roof of temples and other religious shrines. Lost wax process is the technique by which a metal sculpture, often silver, gold, brass or bronze, is cast from an original sculpture of wax made of honeycomb. Molten metal is poured into a mold that has been created by means of a wax model. Once the mold is made, the wax model is melted and drained away. In the second phase, the metal sculpture is cleaned with different machines or equipment. After filling of the sculpture, it is then plated with gold or painted with colors based on the requirements. Most of such sculptures are found in Buddhist and Hindu religious shrines. Globally recognized senior artist Krodh Kala Shiromani Kalu Kumale shares his experience. Existing sculptures present in Nepal and at museums abroad prove that the works of sculptures have a long history in the country. Sculptures made using the lost wax process have a huge demand in China and other countries and continue to be exported. Okubahal, Nagbahal, Haugal and Tangal, among other places, are the pioneers in metal craft. Likewise, metal crafts of Tansen in Palpa, Chainpur and Bhojpur are also popular around the world. Silver filigree art of Nepal is internationally recognized. The genre, which began during the Lichvi era and grew in the Malla era, is considered quality work of art of Nepal. Attractive shapes are made from metals including silver, and precious stones are then used to create artistic objects. It is believed that works of filigree art were the first ones to be purchased by tourists. Artists speak of a huge demand of quality Nepali filigree art in the international market. Senior artist Dilliraj Shakya shares his experience. Stone art is taken as a significant category of handicrafts. Equipment including hammers is used in development of beautiful sculptures. This form of art had begun with the development of different kinds of weapons. They are strong and durable and therefore remain intact. Most of the sculptures of gods and goddesses are made from stones. Likewise, sculptures of animals, stone taps, Temples, religious symbols and goods used in daily lives are also made from stone. Most of such sculptures are made from the stones found in local hills, including Hattiban, Machegao, Tika Bhairav, Godavari and Kharpa, among others. Senior artist Dharmaraj Shakya says that Nepal's stone art has a unique identity. Of the stone sculptures found so far, a sculpture of King Jaya Varma found in Harigaon and currently conserved at National Museum in Chhaoni is considered to be the oldest historic sculpture. Likewise, sculptures in Changu installed by King Mandev, another found in Tilganga near Pashupati, a sculpture of Vishnu Vikrant in Lazimpat, and the one at Budhanilkantha are also considered historic. Sculpture of Virupaksha Kirateshwar Mahadev at Pashupati Aryaghat, Vishwaroop at Changu, Garud Sayan Vishnu sculpture, Palanchuk Bhagwati, Gazalakshmi of Lalitpur, Chashal Hiti and Krishna Mandir of Patan, among others, are considered the best stone sculptures of Nepal. Terracotta sculptures and masks, among other artworks, are made from clay. Terracotta works are thought to have been in existence in Nepal from a long time. According to historians and archaeologists, terracotta works found during a recent excavation administered by the Department of Archaeology were from the 2nd century BC. In recent practices, terracotta works are made before the development of metal sculptures. Different goods used in daily life are made from terracotta works. In addition to the sculptures of religious figures, products such as cups and plates, among other utensils, are also made from terracotta technique, while they are sold in domestic and foreign markets as well. Artists who have been working with terracotta for ages live in Thimi of Bhaktapur, Dang and Kapilvastu. Popular artist Gopal Kalapremi says the creativity and dedication of Nepali artists has been uplifting terracotta works in and outside of Nepal. Pauba art is made in the Kathmandu Valley and is considered as a traditional art form. This form of art is known as Thanga in Tibet. In Tibetan language, documentation and archives, Nepali handicrafts have established a significant position in the international community for their traditional, religious, social, historic and archaeological richness. Nepal Academy of Fine Arts has been conducting significant tasks in regards to conservation, promotion and development of Nepali handicrafts. Active involvement of experienced, skilled and talented artists, along with their devotion and sacrifices, have been rejuvenating Nepali handicrafts and helping establish a unique and superior identity of Nepal in the international community.
A majestic destination blessed by cultural, religious, historic and natural diversities. Nepal is the country of Mount Everest and the birthplace of Lord Gautama Buddha. Karnali is synonymous to Nepal. One can experience the diversity of Nepal by visiting Karnali province. It is a must-go destination for those who want to experience the real Nepal. Karnali, that represents Nepal's age-old civilization, is in itself mesmerizing. The province has immense tourism potential with its unique natural, religious, cultural, archaeological, and historic diversity. The famous tourist destinations in the province have played an important role in representing Nepal at the international level. Tourism can be the base for prosperity of Karnali region based on its immense prospects. Lakes, water bodies, and famous religious sites are the major attractions for tourists in this province. Rara Lake, Sefoksundu Lake, Bulbule Lake, Chayanath, Dai Lake, Sinja Valley, Humla. This is Rara. Rara is the largest lake in Nepal. The lake is situated at Chayanath Rural Municipality of Mugu District in the Rara National Park. The unique lake is not just known for the different species of rare fishes and the musk ducks, but also for the changing color as per the climatic condition. Many foreign tourists come here to witness the camouflage of this majestic lake. A day's travel from Kathmandu to Surkhet, an overnight stay. Manma, the district headquarters of Kalikot, from Surkhet, an overnight stay. And on the third day, you can reach the Rara Lake. You need not walk if you choose this route for Rara Lake. Humla is a very remote Himalayan district of Nepal bordering Mugu. It has great touristic importance. Many pilgrims who want to go to the mythical Kailas mountain via Mansarovar take the journey via Humla district. Tourists, mainly Indian pilgrims, travel to Mansarovar, one of the largest pure water bodies at the highest altitude in the world, for religious purposes. This is the shortest and the most convenient route for the pilgrims. Most of the pilgrims traveling to Mansarovar choose air trip up to Simikot of Humla from Nepalganj. From Simikot, helicopter trip up to Hilsa, from where they enter Chinese autonomous region of Tibet. One day's drive from entering Tibet, the pilgrims reach Mansarovar. The Kimi Valley of Humla is another new tourist destination in the district. Karnali is a majestic land, naturally as well as culturally. It has religious and cultural heritages in abundance. It offers attractions for tourists of varying interests. Somewhat deprived in education, health, and employment, Karnali's tourism potential, due to its unique and diverse nature, geography, religion, culture, history, and archaeology, is unexplored. Many potential tourist destinations have yet to be explored in this region. So far, 101 destinations in the region have been branded as of touristic importance. Of the 101, 13 are under federal government, 9 under province government, and 79 under local levels. Karnali might lack top-class infrastructures including roadways, hotels, or communications, but many destinations attract adventure tourists. Likewise, medicinal herbs like Yarsagumba, Kali Marsi paddy, millet and barley fields attract tourists when in full bloom. Some of the best organic dishes on offer you might find Kali Marsi paddy, honey, broad beans, dry apple, marfa, barley, sip wool products as the gifts of Karnali. Whitewater rafting in the 5th best river in the world, Karnali, and very tall and majestic Kanjirova. Patarasi, and Cisne Mountains, open for expedition, challenge mountaineers and explorers alike. Karnali is also known as the origin of civilizations, including language, literature, art, and culture. It's a pure and revered land. It has a lot to offer to researchers and explorers. Surkhet, the provincial headquarters of Karnali, is the gateway to most of the tourist destinations. Karnali Highway connects some of the destinations, including Kotgadi, Panchadeval, Bilaspur, Mahabu area in Daily. Pachal Waterfall in Kalikot, Sinja Valley and the Dul Monastery of Jumla, and Rara Lake of Mugu. Very few destinations of Mugu and Jumla have road access. On the other hand, many budget travelers are not encouraged to traveling in Karnali, as it is relatively expensive due to unavailability of road network. It is a must-go destination for those who want to experience the real Nepal.
Global attention turned to China as US President Donald Trump prepared for a state visit to the country from May 13 to 15 at the invitation of Chinese President Xi Jinping. The trip marked the first visit to China by a US president in 9 years and came at a time of shifting global politics and economic uncertainty. Analysts said the visit could play a key role in shaping future China-US relations, with trade, economic cooperation, global stability expected to dominate discussions. Ahead of the visit, both countries also held high-level economic and trade consultations in South Korea, while a delegation of major American business leaders was expected to accompany Trump to Beijing. Recent surveys showed growing confidence among U.S. companies operating in China, with many planning to expand investments despite ongoing geopolitical tensions. Experts say the visit reflects a broader effort by both sides to maintain dialogue, stabilize ties, and prevent further confrontation between the world's two largest economies. The United Nations has condemned the rising toll on children in the occupied West Bank, saying escalating Israeli military operations and settler attacks have killed 70 Palestinian children since early 2025. UNICEF spokesperson James Elder said at least one child has been killed weekly since January, with around 850 others injured, mostly by live ammunitions. The UN warned children are bearing an intolerable price as violence intensifies alongside the Gaza war, which erupted in October 2023. The West Bank has seen a sharp surge in violence, with hundreds of Palestinians and dozens of Israelis killed in ongoing clashes and military operations.
Children are paying an intolerable price for escalating military operations and settler attacks across the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem. So between January 2025 and today, at least one Palestinian child has been killed on average every single week in the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem. So that's 70 Palestinian children killed in this time frame. Now, 93% of those were killed by Israeli forces, and a further 850 Palestinian children were injured. Most of those killed or wounded were done by live ammunition.
World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus has said efforts are ongoing to contain a hantavirus outbreak linked to a cruise ship, stressing that the work is not over following the evacuation of passengers. 3 people have died after an outbreak aboard the MV Honduras, prompting international concern, and the evacuation of more than 120 passengers and crew from Spain's Canary Islands. Tedros said there was no sign of a wider outbreak, but warned the situation could still change due to the virus's long incubation period. He added health authorities would continue monitoring closely. While the WHO has recommended a 42-day quarantine for high-risk contacts, responses have varied internationally, with some countries adopting stricter measures than others. Officials, however, stressed the global public health risk remains low and rejected comparisons to the early stages of COVID-19 pandemic.
Este mundo no necesita más egoísmo, ni más miedo. Lo que necesita son países solidarios que quieran dar un paso al frente. Y por eso, en la tarde del 5 de mayo, comunicamos oficialmente a la Organización Mundial de la Salud que España cumpliría, como hemos hecho siempre, y que, por tanto, España acogería al ONDIOS.
But they have the sovereignty, so we can't force them to take our protocols. We can only advise and recommend, but I hope they will follow the advice and the recommendations we're making. Thank you.
European Union Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has said the EU should consider delaying children's access to social media, with possible new rules expected within months. Speaking at a summit on AI and children in Copenhagen, she said an expert panel has been tasked with reporting by July on measures to better protect minors online, including the possibility of a social media ban or age restrictions. Von der Leyen said the debate on a minimum age for social media could no longer be ignored, noting that several member states, including France and Denmark, are pushing for stricter limits for teenagers. She also stressed that the key question is not whether young people should access social media, but whether social media platforms should have access to young users, with a potential legal proposal expected this summer.
The question is not whether young people should have access to social media. The question is whether social media should have access to young people. Yes. And childhood and early adolescence are formative years. And I believe we should give our children more time to become resilient in these vulnerable phases.
Sri Lanka's former president Mahinda Rajapaksa has been questioned by anti-corruption investigators over allegations that he received kickbacks linked to an Airbus aircraft deal. The 80-year-old appeared before the Bribery Commission in Colombo for more than 2 hours as thousands of supporters gathered outside during the questioning. The investigation centers on claims that funds from a multi-million-dollar Airbus deal were channeled to senior officials, including payments allegedly linked to a $2.3 billion Sri Lankan Airlines purchase of 10 aircraft during Rajapaksa's presidency. Former Sri Lankan Airlines chief Kapila Chandrasena had reportedly told investigators he handed nearly $500,000 in kickbacks to Rajapaksa, though he later retracted the statement. He was found dead last week before he was due to be re-arrested with the cause of death still unclear. Rajapaksa's spokesperson denied the allegations, saying the former president has repeatedly dismissed corruption claims as politically motivated. Nine people have been arrested in Thailand following a series of sting operations across 7 provinces after authorities seized around 250 kilograms of African ivory smuggled via Vietnam. Police said the illegal trade was tracked through a Facebook group selling animal product items, where undercover officers purchased goods and carried out forensic tests confirming the material was African ivory. Coordinated raids on 11 locations led to the arrest of 9 suspects and the seizure of ivory products and carving tools, with the total value of confiscated items estimated at nearly 10 million baht. Investigators said the ivory was shipped from Africa to Vietnam before being smuggled into Thailand via the Mekong River, where it was carved into items such as amulets and prayer beads. Authorities added the suspects have confessed, while further investigations are underway to identify the Vietnamese smugglers involved. Japan's green tea industry has moved to strengthen brand protection measures in a bid to boost exports and safeguard authenticity amid rising global demand for matcha. An association of tea growers and exporters has applied for certification of Nihon Cha, or Japanese tea, under the country's geographical indication system, which protects regional products such as Kobe beef and Echizen crab. The initiative comes as exports of Japanese green tea hit a record 72.1 billion yen, or nearly $460 million in 2025, driven by strong overseas demand. However, industry officials warned of increasing cases of misleading labeling, with some overseas products using Japanese place names. They say the GI mark could help strengthen brand recognition and support further export growth. Hanoi has stepped up investment in new schools to meet the needs of its growing population as Vietnam continues to prioritize human capital development for long-term economic growth. The capital is expected to build 1,000 new schools at all levels by 2045. With a population of around 9 million, Hanoi currently has nearly 3,000 schools covering preschool to upper secondary education. Officials say the city's school network was broadly sufficient, with places available in public, private, people-founded schools and continuing education centers. However, pressure remained high in some inner city and rapidly urbanizing areas where population growth continues to strain education infrastructure. The grand opening of a prestigious intellectual marathon was held at the Institute of International Relations under Turkmenistan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Around 160 delegates from leading universities in Russia, China, the UK, Iran, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan and Tajikistan took part alongside 117 top students from 24 Turkmen higher education institutions. The competition was conducted in Turkmen, Russian and English, featuring a 100-question test on international relations, diplomacy, culture, ecology, the UN Sustainable Development Goals and Turkmenistan's history. Officials said the aim was to create a platform for dialogue among future professionals across Central Asia, the Caspian region, China and Turkey. The event also included an international conference on diplomacy, focusing on neutrality, cultural diplomacy and global security, along with educational tours in Ashgabat.
Annapurna Circuit Trek features in world's 10 best destinations and adventures. The trekking circuit is the choice of many trekkers as it offers both adventure along with mesmerizing view of mountain ranges. Arguably the best trekking circuit in the world, travelers get up close with dozens of mountains including the Annapurna, Dhaulagiri, Nilgiri. Annapurna circuit ideally is a 14-day trek. The circuit passes through Lamjung, Manang, Mustang and Myagdi district, including Thorangla Pass as the highest point. Places including Dhampus, Ghandruk and Poon Hill are part of this trekking circuit. The revered Muktinath shrine is also part of the circuit. Only foreigners were seen in this circuit few years back, but now domestic tourists are also flocking the area. If you are looking for a lifetime trekking experience, then pack your bags for Annapurna trekking circuit. Mardi Base Camp Trek, also part of the Annapurna circuit, is another alternative route for trekkers who can't afford time. Trekkers can be up close with mountains including the Annapurna Range, Dhaulagiri, Machapuchre and Manasalu in this circuit. This 7-day circuit is attracting many trekkers for obvious reasons.
Hello and welcome to The Perspective on NTV World. I am Sapika Shrestha. From major headlines to the issues behind them, we break down the top stories and explore how they are shaping the path forward. This week's episode includes Nepal's budget session officially begins this week as the government prepares to unveil a nearly 1.9 trillion rupees budget amid slowing economic growth, weak capital spending and rising pressure to create jobs at home. We discuss the government's key budget priorities, concerns over poor implementation efforts to revive private sector confidence, and the growing number of young Nepalis leaving the country for foreign employment. We also look at the government's newly launched digital suggestion collection portal and whether greater public participation can truly make the budget process more transparent and effective. Stay with us for these stories and more. The budget session of Nepal's federal parliament has kicked off, marking the start of the new parliamentary year with the government's policy and program presentation. President Ramchandra Paudel addressed the joint sitting of both the House of Representatives and the National Assembly Monday, in line with Article 95 of the Constitution of Nepal. Both the houses met separately with agendas including announcements related to the session convening, information on recent cabinet reshuffle and procedural matters such as presiding arrangements and rule approvals. The government is expected to table the 8 ordinances, including amendments related to public procurement and the Constitutional Council, which will be presented in both houses for consideration. During the joint sitting, President Ramchandra Paudel presented the government's policy and program for the upcoming fiscal year. The Council of Ministers early on Monday endorsed the policy and programs. With the weight of expectations on the nearly two-third majority government, the policy and programs are likely to revolve around the 100-point commitment paper of the RSP government. The presentation comes in accordance with Article 95 of the Constitution of Nepal. The policy and programs outline the government's major priorities, plans and areas of focus before the annual budget is introduced. The address by President formally launches parliamentary discussions related to national policies and development priorities for the next fiscal cycle. As Nepal is preparing to unveil a budget worthy nearly 1.9 trillion rupees for the upcoming fiscal year, the newly elected government faces mounting pressure to revive a slowing economy, boost private sector confidence and create jobs for thousands of young people leaving the country for foreign employment each year. Economists say the upcoming budget will be critical in determining whether Nepal can accelerate development and restore economic momentum after years of weak capital spending and sluggish market activity. Here's a report.
Nepal government is currently finalizing the national budget for fiscal year 2026-27 at a time when Nepal's economy continues to struggle with slow growth, weak consumer demand and low investment confidence. Experts say one of the country's biggest economic challenges remains poor capital expenditure. Development spending by the government has remained consistently low in recent years, delaying infrastructure projects and slowing economic activity across multiple sectors. At the same time, declining purchasing power among consumers has weakened market activity, while many businesses continue to hold back investment despite sufficient liquidity in the banking sector. Economists warn that the lack of economic opportunities at home has also contributed to the continued outflow of young Nepalis seeking employment abroad, raising concerns about long-term productivity and the country's ability to mobilize domestic resources effectively. The new government, led by the Rashtriya Swatantra Party RSP, which secured a near two-thirds majority in the March parliamentary elections, is now under pressure to deliver a budget that directly addresses public expectations, particularly among young voters seeking employment and economic stability. Former Vice Chairperson of the National Planning Commission, Govinda Pokhrel, says the budget should focus more on development and production rather than short-term distribution programs.
वैदेशिक मुद्रा आर्जन गर्ने र रोजगारी सिर्जना गर्ने एउटा आईटी हो, पर्यटन हो र एउटा निर्यात हो। त्यो क्षेत्रमा उहाँहरूले कसरी एउटा टार्गेटेड त्यसरी जानु पर्यो। अब कृषि क्षेत्रमा उहाँहरूले दिने सुविधाको लागि फोकस गर्नु पर्यो, तर मान्छेको क्षमता बढाउनु पर्यो। मान्छेसँग खेत छ, बारी छ, उत्पादन हुने ठाउँ छ, तर उसँग त्यसलाई सदुपयोग गरेर आफूलाई अब एउटा मर्यादित आम्दानी हुने खालको क्षमता छैन कि टमाटर उत्पादन गर्छ, त्यो टमाटर कुहिएर जान्छ, उसले चाहिँ बजारीकरण गर्न सक्दैन कि। त्यसकारणले जुन सप्लाई साइड भन्छौँ, किसानले अथवा अरू कुनै पनि उद्यमीले पाउनुपर्ने सुविधा चाहिँ सरकारले उपलब्ध गराइदिनु पर्यो र उहाँहरूको क्षमता विकास गर्नु पर्यो। बजारीकरण कसरी गर्ने, त्यसलाई आफ्नो व्यक्तिगत आय कसरी बढाउने, ऋण कसरी लिने, लगानीको सुरक्षित कसरी गर्ने, यो सबै चिज जबसम्म सिकाइदैनौँ, सरकारले अनुदान मात्रै पेलेर पनि कुनै उपलब्धि नभएको हामीले चाहिँ देखेका छौँ।
Pokhrel says priority should be given to sectors that can strengthen Nepal's domestic economy, including energy exports, information technology, and infrastructure development. He also says the government should focus on completing unfinished large-scale projects and restoring confidence in the private sector to encourage greater investment. Experts say although banks currently hold investable funds, businesses remain hesitant to expand due to uncertainty in the economy and weak market demand. Economists are also urging the government to introduce employment-focused policies and provide special support for small and medium-sized enterprises, which are considered key drivers of job creation and economic recovery.
युवा लक्षित कार्यक्रमहरूलाई चाहिँ बढी फोकस गर्नुपर्छ, क्वालिटेटिभ एजुकेसन जहाँ चाहिँ स्किल अनि त्यसपछि चाहिँ उनीहरुलाई ट्रेनिङ र कामले चाहिँ उत्पादन र रोजगारीमा पनि साथ दिन सकोस्। अहिले नेपाली अर्थतन्त्र अत्यन्तै शिथिल अवस्थामा छ, जहाँ चाहिँ हामी गरिबी, महँगी र बेरोजगारको चाहिँ चरम मार खेपिरहेका छौँ। यो कुरालाई चाहिँ सरकारले तत्कालै एड्रेस गर्नुपर्छ।
Analysts say citizens are now expecting tangible relief and visible development outcomes rather than policy promises alone. They argue that the upcoming budget will be closely watched as a test of the government's ability to translate its strong electoral mandate into economic results. The government is expected to make public the budget, with total spending projected to exceed 1,890 billion Nepali rupees.
We explored more on the priorities and possible impacts of the upcoming budget with development economist Bojras Paudel through this virtual conversation. Welcome to NTV World, sir.
Thank you very much, Sabikaji.
As Nepal is preparing to unveil a budget for the upcoming fiscal year, how realistic will be the ceiling of nearly 1.9 trillion rupees given by the National Planning Commission amid a slowing economy? What should be the government's top priority this fiscal year?
The ceiling in itself makes sense, but what should be the priority to, and then where should be the focus of the government is the key question. I think first and foremost, there are critical infrastructures that are already underway to be developed. They have to be prioritized and completed on time. The second is government has to come out with maximizing the resources, including the infrastructures that we have. For instance, Nepal right now has 3 international airports, Pokhara, Gautam Buddha, and Tirwan International Airport. Government should come up with ways of leveraging these 3 hubs with international airports. Then it comes to incentivizing the private sector to directly participate and creating wealth to push the reform agenda. Without the participation of the private sector, any reform agenda is going to be meaningless. That's where the government really should think about how it can actually win the confidence of the private sector and then implement the policies in partnership with the private sector. That said, the government really has to work on and come up with innovative ways of operationalizing public-private partnership modality, which is in very much limbo for the last 1 decade, even from the very much point of establishing Investment Board of Nepal.
So how confident are you that the budget will not have to be revised midway due to lackluster development expenditure spending?
Governments should start working on from day one. I mean, we bring budget, but then the implementation process gets very much delayed. It gets into interagency coordination capability and then the mechanism. There is really no established mechanism where the interagency coordination becomes very successful, because every project requires high level of coordination among the government agencies, including ministries. That's where the government should come up with the ways of enhancing the coordination, cooperation, and then only funding or allocating resources and financial resources for the project that are ready to kick off. The government has to leverage the existing resources, existing infrastructures that we have. Mm-hmm. And the third one is in terms of expenditure, increasing capital expenditure. The first important task is not about anything else. It's rather the interagency coordination and very fast coordination, which, I mean, 1 year is a very short time. And then we reach to next quarter and then third quarter, and then things start already too late to kick off. That's why early on, government should come up with budget implementation plan that is convened and can be complied by all the stakeholders, including federal ministries, provincial governments, and the local governments.
Mr. Paudel, capital expenditure and budget implementation have remained weak for years. Why has Nepal consistently struggled to translate budgets into actual development?
There are very higher level, our procurement policies, this and that, but I hope the government will come up with a very much solvable challenges or the problems that are holding the expenditure issue, right? That's where the current government, given the expertise that our leadership has in terms of even look at the Finance Ministry, National Planning Commission, National Nepal Rashtra Bank, all of them have solid leadership in terms of technical understanding of the economy, and then the theoretical understanding of how a budget should be, what kind of policies there should be. The only issue of implementation, that's where we should bring down the larger, narrative of, hey, the capital expenditure is not happening because of this, larger policies. We know that. What we don't know is what kind of smaller problems are coming together to block the road for implementation. That's where the Ministry of Finance really has to work with the other line ministries in terms of implementation.
Sir, thousands of young Nepalis continue leaving for foreign employment every year. So what concrete policies should the budget introduce to create job opportunities at home?
Well, I think that's a long shot. How we can create jobs in the country. For first, the budget has to give the confidence to the private sector. Second, after that confidence, the private sector should actually find space and areas to engage and invest. Third, there has to be demand being increased at the domestic level, right? For that, the government has to give space and make individuals, consumers, have more and more disposable income. For that, the government really has to work in terms of finding ways to formalizing the economy. That's where everybody in the informal sector also feels secure about spending whatever the income they have. Without that, there would be no jobs. Without jobs, young people would be always looking for going abroad. But at the same time, the people leaving country is not only for jobs, because there are jobs and opportunities in the informal sector. The only thing is how reliable they are, what kind of compensation plan that the government has, and how we are monitoring the private sector and helping them to create more jobs. And where is the focus for investment? Which areas should we focus for investment? Right? That if we invest in one sector in silos, then it may not able to create jobs across the economy. That's why there has to be a balanced approach in terms of investment in the energy sector, investment in the manufacturing sector, investment in the digital sector, investment in tourism sector. So all these sectors that Nepal has potential should get some sort of incentive or confidence from the government that they can really move forward without hesitating about losing their business in next quarter or the quarter following. So the kind of policy predictability the government has to give, in which the government should give the policies in a larger framework.
Lastly, Mr. Paudel, the government has launched a public suggestion collection portal for the budget process. Can initiatives like this genuinely improve policy making and public trust?
Feedback collection loop normally in a budget cycle is done through Ministry of Finance. But we have seen this from the Prime Minister's office, right? That may give an impression to the larger people and the private sector that is that a sign that there is no communication between Ministry of Finance and the Prime Minister's office? And private sector normally takes Ministry of Finance as first line of conversation. And if in that case, if the Prime Minister's office is soliciting feedback from the people in terms of fiscal budget, then there would be question, who should they be talking to, whether to Prime Minister's office or the Ministry of Finance? So that kind of confusion may be there, but I would say in essence, such an attempt is well appreciated, and it should improve the budget making process. But this is because in a parliamentary system, also the budget session of the parliament should be long enough where every member of the parliament should get time to deliver and discuss the merits of each clause of the budget or whatever they want to bring, right? That's where probably we have to wait and see how the session goes, What kind of deliberations do we see? What kind of questions do we see? How parliamentarians will discuss on the budget and the policies? That is still, we have to wait and see, Savikaji.
Thank you for your time and insights, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
That was economist Vojas Paudel on the priorities and possible impacts of the upcoming budget. Now, as economists and citizens alike demand stronger economic policies, Nepal's government is also attempting to make the budget process more participatory through a newly launched digital platform. Nepal's Office of the Prime Minister and Council of Ministers has come up with a new digital suggestion collection portal aimed at increasing public participation in the country's policy, program and budget-making process for the upcoming fiscal year. The platform allows Nepali citizens, policy experts and members of the diaspora living abroad to directly submit recommendations on development priorities and government spending plans. Officials say the initiative is part of an effort to make governance more transparent, inclusive and people-centered by incorporating public concerns into national policy making. The Prime Minister's Secretariat says the portal is intended to reduce the gap between citizens and the state and ensure that government decisions are not limited to bureaucratic circles alone. The system also includes a suggestion tracking feature allowing users to monitor the status of their submissions and see whether their recommendations are being reviewed or implemented by the government. That's all from the perspective for this week. We will be back with more updates next week. Stay tuned to NTV World.
Minutes flight across 214 kilometers, we landed at the Simikot airport. It was a great relief to land in Simikot for us, who had spent few days in hot Nepalganj. The cool breeze welcomed us to our great expectations. According to locals, Simikot got its name with the combination of Simi and Kot. Indeed, it is the combination of Sim meaning wetland and Kot meaning green meadow. Simikot is a major point for pilgrims traveling to Mount Kailas and Mansarovar in Tibet via Hilsa. This is the easiest way to the Mansarovar, and thus many Indian pilgrims are seen here.
मेन त यो हुम्ला सिमीकोट चाहिँ तपाईको अब भनौं न अब कैलाश मानसरोवरकै गेटवे भएकोले एउटा यहाँ आउने भयो। अब हामीले पनि अब भनौं न तपाईको हुम्ला सिमीकोट चाहिँ अब तपाईको यो सदरमुकाम मेन ल्यान्डिङ पोइन्ट हो हैन। अब यहाँबाट तपाईको पर्यटकहरुलाई जस्तै हाम्रो यहाँ रलिङ गुम्बाहरु छ, खारबुनाथ मन्दिरहरु छ हैन। अब जस्तै यहाँ तपाईको एकदम के भन्छ प्राकृतिक सुन्दरताहरु हेर्ने ठाउँहरु थुप्रै छ। किनभने हामीले त्यो ठाउँहरुलाई चाहिँ फोकस गर्न नसकेर बाहिर ल्याउन नसकेर मात्र हो। अब ल्याउन सक्यो भने पर्यटनहरु आवश्यक नै बढी मात्रामा बढ्छ भन्ने आशा छ।
We arrived Simikot with a throng of travelers to Humla, comprising some domestic and foreign tourists. Soon our team became a cozy group of travelers. We traveled together to Limi of Namkha, among the 7 rural municipalities of the district: Simikot, Namkha, Kharpunath, Chankheli, Sarkegad, Adnacholi and Tanjakot. The jeep ride in the gravel road is some kind of experience in this majestic terrain. However, we were disturbed by the landslides at various places of the rural road and left to travel on foot. We arrived at Chaudan Foya after a few hours of walk, but our overnight stay was still a few hours trek to Dharapuri. We stopped at many places on our way just to capture the natural beauty of the place and feel the magic in the air. These hills and the spontaneous Karnali river kept inspiring us. And on the way we see many stories of hope, determination and struggle of the locals. It was almost dusk, but our destination was still at some distance. So we increased our pace along with the local children accompanying us. We are thankful to these kids, without whom we would not have been able to know some of the very well-known places on the way. Almost 8:30 in the evening, we were still struggling to find the house where we were supposed to spend the night. Now our team was no more intact, as all had their own arrangements in small groups. We had no option but to find a place to rest for the night. We were overwhelmed by the humility and warmth of the local people. They offered a bunch of unknown travelers food and accommodation with open heart. This reminded us of the slogan, "Guest is God," in real terms. Not the most affluent of the societies, but very welcoming at heart. In need, but have the humility. Poverty-ridden, but full of humanity. We salute the rural folks who mess around the year in this inhospitable terrain for survival. The next morning, we all get together. Our next destination was Kermi, to serve food and some rest for travelers. Getting orders, by the hour, but we did not miss the chance to enjoy the natural wonder of the region. For the first time. To our great relief, we got the news that a goods-laden truck was heading towards Limi from Tibet of China. However, we still had some distance to cover to catch the truck. We all wanted to rush with the hope to reach there in time to get a lift. At the moment, we are at Chanso, where there is not enough place for our jumbo team to spend the night. Finally, we decided to spend the night in Chanso itself, as the way ahead was more difficult and riskier. Two families had set up their yak camps here and living in 2 tents. Our big team had to divide and accommodate in these 2 tents for the night. We squeezed in for the night anyhow. It's a beautiful morning with bright blue sky, surrounded by tall hills, waterfalls and the whistling Karnali. It was nothing less than a piece of heaven on earth. We mingled with the locals for some times.
गाह्रै छ पानी पनि यहाँ समस्या छ दाउरा पनि समस्या छ यहाँ गाह्रै छ गाह्रो त यस पुल पनि समस्या छ यहाँ नराम्रो ठाउँमा बसेको छ यहाँ चिसो ठाउँमा यस्तो समस्या छ यहाँ हामीसँग धेरै चुनौतीहरू पनि छ जस्तै एक्सेसको कुरा गर्ने हो भने रोड राम्रो बनेको छैन अनि त्यसपछि तपाईँ सञ्चारहरू छैन बाटोमा टी सपहरू छैन त्यसपछि त्यही अनुसार जस्तै टुरिज्म व्यवसायको लागि चाहिएको तपाईको के भन्छ यो के रे ह्युमन रिसोर्सहरू पनि राम्रोसँग दक्ष छैन हैन
We had to climb up to the altitude of 4,800 meters to reach Limi. We decided to travel on horses as we were too tired to walk now. We managed horses for our team and set out on our way. We stopped at a beautiful natural pond, locally known as Selima. No one has dared to measure the depth of this pond till date. No one is aware of the mathematics of this ancient natural lake. We also moved ahead with the enthusiasm as to why. No one knows it. 2 hours on the horseback, we arrive at Nyalul Langna at an altitude of 4,800 meters above sea level. Surrounded by white mountains and hills, we found 2 Chinese trucks ready to leave for Limi. It took some effort to climb onto these huge carriers. Around 100 people had boarded on each truck. The local people were also waiting for the truck to depart like we were. The gravelled road and overloaded trucks. The ride was not very comfortable, but we did not have much option either to move ahead. After around 5 hours rough ride, we arrived at Halji village of Limi. Three villages, Tili, Halji and Jang, were collectively called Limi. It was almost evening by the time we reached Halji. The sight of Karnali snaking between the hills, symmetrical houses, green meadows, and the hearty welcome of the locals relieved of our fatigue. Cattle, farming and trade were the main profession of the Denizens of Halji. Yak, growing uwa, a special grain used in making liquor, and traveling to and from Taklakut via Hilsa for trade is part of their life for the locals. Despite the beauty of this magical land, it's far away from tourism. Hardly 50 tourists from outside set their foot on this area every year. The millennium-old Halji monastery, built by Locha Warinche Samo, is the pride of this place. Monk Samo had built this monastery as the last of his 108 structures around the world. Monk Samo is believed to have died while constructing this monastery. The ancient heritage, at the risk of landslide, awaits preservation and promotion.
दायाँको त्यहाँ पहिरोको डर छ यहाँ हैन त्यहाँ बायाँको त्यही डोरीको दुख छ त्यही ढुङ्गाको धेरै दुख छ बिचमा खानु पाउनको पेटको दुख छ यहाँ धेरै आवश्यक छ के छ यहाँ गुम्बा विधानमा त्यही सबै ती पुरानो लिङ्ग मूर्तिको माटोमा लिगेर ती बिग्री जान्छ
We had the opportunity to see the local culture and lifestyle during our trek in Limi. What impressed us the most was the dress, including local bakhu, sonba, chino and quinoa bread. Mount Kailas and the Mansarovar in China are clearly visible from Lapcha of Limi. 7 to 8 hours of truck ride from Halji, we can reach there. We were very much eager to see the Mansarovar and Mount Kailas, so we went to Limi. But to our bad luck, the weather did not help us. We waited for some time for the weather to clear, but there was no sign whatsoever, and we returned disappointed. Had the weather been kind, this was the sight we would have been able to see. Our journey to Limi thus ended on a sad note. We head back to Simikot and Nepalganj and finally to Kathmandu. Back in Kathmandu, every scene and sight we saw on the way is coming back in flashback. Being in this place itself is a treat to the eyes and mind. You forget all the fatigue and physical pain once you reach in this oasis. Undoubtedly, Humla, bordering Mugu, Bajura, Bazan, and China towards the north, is a piece of heaven on earth.
हिरण्यबाहवे हिरण्यवर्णाय हिरण्यरूपाय हिरण्यपतये अम्बिकापतये उमापतये पशुपतये नमो नमः।
At least 4 dead in a bus accident in Arga Khachi. 3 vehicles collide in Nepal's key highway, leaving 37 injured. Public issues dominate today's House discussion. MPs urge action on inflation, disaster preparedness and protection of citizens' rights. Government announces support classes for struggling SEE candidates to launch preparatory programs as low pass percentage raises concern. WHO monitors cruise-linked hantavirus outbreak amid global concerns over emerging risks linked to international movement. U.S. sanctions 12 Iran-linked entities over oil sales to China, targets individuals accused of facilitating Iranian oil trade. And Scotland edged Nepal by 2 runs in tense ICC Men's Cricket League 2 clash. Nepal falls short at 218. Good evening, I am Sarah Sapsanamarai and this is NTV World News Hour coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours Nepal time. Now the news in detail. At least 4 people have died and 27 others injured after a bus accident in Panini Rural Municipality, Arghakhachi, in the hilly district of western Nepal. According to police, the bus was returning from Supadeurali in Arghakhachi to Parvat when it veered off the road and fell around 100 meters down a slope. 2 passengers died on the spot, including the driver, while 2 others succumbed to their injuries at different hospitals. The deceased have been identified as Ram Maya Basnet, 78, and Bindu Kumar, also 78, of Pokhara Metropolitan City. And also Kaushala Regmi, who was 50 years old, Ramesh GC, 45, of Modi Rural Municipality in Parvat district. Most of the passengers were from Modi Rural Municipality. Of the injured, the condition of 4 is reported to be critical. All injured are receiving treatment at Lumbini Medical College in Palpa and Bhairahawa Medical College. In another road incident along the Prithvi Highway, 37 passengers have been injured after a 3-vehicle collision near Chirodi Khola in Bairini area of Galchi Rural Municipality in Dhading district. That's in central Nepal. A passenger bus travelling from Kathmandu to Baglung first crashed into a parked truck. Shortly after, another bus coming from Kathmandu to Birganj collided with the same bus from behind, resulting in a chain reaction accident. All 3 vehicles were reportedly moving in the same direction at the time of the crash. Injured passengers were initially taken to local hospitals, while those in serious condition were referred to a trauma center in Kathmandu for further treatment. A debate on the government's policy and program was held in today's meeting of the House of Representatives, where lawmakers from various parties also used the session and 0 hour to raise key public concerns. Lawmakers also called for improved budget planning, better capital expenditure and greater coordination between policy and programs. The discussion focused on fiscal management, budget coordination and capital expenditure, with calls for stronger implementation of development priorities. While some defended recent ordinances as reform-driven, others criticized the lack of new initiatives and limited emphasis on sectors such as science, technology and long-term economic transformation. Several MPs called for consensus-based constitutional reform, improved disaster preparedness in the face of climate risks, and practical solutions to cross-border and governance challenges. MPs also reminded the government of its responsibility to protect citizens' rights and called for immediate action on a range of issues, including construction of elderly-friendly public infrastructure, timely repair of dilapidated roads, and arrangements for completing unfinished bridges before the monsoon season. Nepal's secondary education examination SEE 2082 has raised concern over the high number of students placed in the non-graded category despite overall improvements in performance. Out of more than 430,000 examinees, a significant portion of over 146,000 students did not achieve the required grades, accounting for nearly 34% of total participants. While the pass rate has improved compared to last year, education experts say the number of non-graded students remains a serious issue, especially in provinces like Madhesh, where failure rates are notably higher. The government has announced support measures including supplementary preparation classes and grade improvement exams for non-graded students in the coming months. We'll look into more on the SEE story in our Issue of the Day segment. Now, a recent hantavirus outbreak linked to a cruise ship has raised concerns over global preparedness for rare infectious diseases, including in countries like Nepal. Health experts warn that in an increasingly connected world, diseases can spread rapidly through international travel. The Andes strain of hantavirus involved in the outbreak has a high fatality rate of around 38% and is among the few variants with limited human-to-human transmission. In Nepal, the focus is on preparedness rather than immediate risk. Rodents are common across the country, and rodent-borne diseases like scrub typhus are already a public health challenge. A past medical report also noted a hantavirus case linked to a tourist who had visited Nepal, suggesting possible undetected presence. Experts say limited testing and overlapping symptoms with other diseases could allow cases to go unnoticed, highlighting the need for stronger surveillance and early detection systems. Detailed look into hantavirus and what experts in Nepal say in our cover story later in the bulletin. Moving on, the United States has imposed sanctions on 12 individuals and entities linked to Iran over oil sales to China. The measures target firms in Hong Kong, the UAE and Iran accused of helping bypass restrictions. Washington says the move aims to limit funding to Iran's military and nuclear programs.
国企业和公民的正当权益。关于伊朗的战事，当务之急是全力避免战端重启，而不是恶意关联抹黑中国。
Nepal has lost to Scotland by 2 runs in the match held between the two sides under ICC Men's Cricket World Cup League 2 at TU Cricket Ground earlier today. Despite half-centuries from vice-captain Dipendra Singh Airi and Gulshan Jha, Nepal fell short by just 2 runs in the match decided by DLS method after 50 overs could be completed in the second innings due to rain. Batting first after winning the toss, Scotland made 243 runs at the loss of 8 wickets in the full quota of 50 overs. George Munsey's 75 set the tone as Scotland posted a competitive total, but Sandeep Lamichhane's 4-wicket haul kept Nepal in the contest. Chasing a revised target of 221 in 39 overs, Nepal fought back with Gulshan scoring 61, Dipendra Singh Airi 55 and captain Rohit Bodal 32. But the team fell short despite a strong effort. Brad Curry took 3 wickets to help Scotland secure control of the match. Nepal now faces the USA in their next fixture, sitting 7th in the table with 18 points from 25 matches. Now, after the break, SEE results spark concern despite a slight improvement in pass rates this year. Why Madhya province remains under scrutiny, and the government promises support for students who failed SEE as Education Minister Sasmit Pokhrel announces new classes and remedial programs. Welcome back to News Hour here on NTV World. Time now for Issue of the Day. The overall pass rate of this year's secondary education examination SEE has improved by 4.17% compared to last year. However, a significant number of students have still failed the examination. The results have raised serious concerns, particularly in Madhya province, highlighting ongoing challenges and the urgent need for improvements in the education sector.
Nepal's secondary education examination SEE 2082 results show a mixed picture of improvement and ongoing concern in the education sector. The National Examination Board has published the results with an overall pass rate of 65.98%. Around 34% remain in the non-graded category. Education experts say the 4.17% improvement compared to last year is encouraging, but the high number of non-graded students continue to raise concerns about learning outcomes and regional disparities, especially in provinces like Madhya.
पोजिटिभ फ्याक्टरहरू के हुन् नेगेटिभ फ्याक्टर के हुन् भनेर चाहिँ एनालाइसिस गरेर अलिकति विज्ञहरूसँग छलफल गरेर त्यो पोलिसीलाई इम्प्लिमेन्ट गर्न पाएको भए सायद रिजल्ट अझ राम्रो आउँथ्यो.
Provincial data shows Madhya province recording the highest failure rate, highlighting gaps in classroom support and learning inequality.
अभिभावकको लगानी चासो सरकारी चाहिँ सक्रियता चासो यी कुराहरूले चाहिँ अब यो गुणस्तर अभिवृद्धिमा चाहिँ सकारात्मक भूमिका खेलेछ भन्ने मलाई लाग्छ.
Parents say the results also reflect improved efficiency as they were published within a month of examinations.
65.98% भनेको त अब स्वाभाविकै पनि यो त एकदमै राम्रो मान्नु पर्यो.
Teachers say the focus must shift towards classroom level learning improvement and student support systems.
धेरै हाउबुझी बनाउनु हुँदैन. अब कतिपय अवस्थामा एससी परीक्षा नगरे पनि हुन्छ भन्ने खालका कुराहरू पनि हुन्छन् हुन चाहिँ.
The board has announced retotaling from May 15 to 21 and supplementary exams from June 15 to 23 for non-graded students. Grade 11 classes are expected to begin later this month. While the results show gradual improvement, experts say stronger reforms are still needed to reduce disparities and improve learning outcomes across Nepal.
Nepal's Minister for Education, Science and Technology, Sasmit Pokhrel, has announced that preparatory classes or similar support programs will be introduced for students who did not pass the secondary education examination. Speaking at a meeting of the Parliamentary Committee on Education, Health and Information Technology held at Singadarwar, the minister said the ministry is committed to bringing remedial measures for students who were not graded in the SEE results.
हामीले कसैलाई पनि विचार निषेध हामीले गरेका छैनौं. मात्र म के एउटा कुरा चाहिँ मान्यज्यूहरुलाई चाहिँ स्मरण मात्र गराउन चाहन्छु भन्ने श्रद्धेय कमरेड मदन भण्डारीले नै भन्नु भएको कुरा स्मरण गराउन चाहन्छु. उहाँले भन्नु भएको थियो महाराज यदि राजनीति गर्ने भने श्रीपेज खोलेर आउनु भन्नु भएको थियो. हामीले पनि टिचरहरुलाई राजनीति गर्ने भए मार्कर छोडेर आउन मात्र आग्रह गरेका हौ. कसैलाई पनि हामीले राजनीति गर्न निषेध गरेका छैनौं.
A hantavirus outbreak linked to a cruise ship has raised new questions about Nepal's preparedness for rare infectious diseases in a globally connected world. What exactly is it and how does it spread? And also, what are health experts urging despite the disease remaining rare? Our cover story after this break. You're watching News Hour here on NTV World. I am Sarah Sapsanamarai. Welcome back. The hantavirus outbreak linked to a cruise ship is raising fresh concerns about how prepared countries like Nepal are to detect rare infectious diseases in an increasingly connected world. Health experts warn that limited testing, rising global travel and widespread rodent exposure could allow potential causes to go unnoticed. April Lankising-Lama reports.
The recent hantavirus outbreak linked to a cruise ship is raising fresh questions for countries like Nepal about how prepared health systems are to detect and respond to rare but potentially deadly infectious diseases in an increasingly connected world. What makes this outbreak internationally significant is not only the nearly 38% fatality rate reported by the World Health Organization, but also the fact that the virus involved in the Andes strain, one of the very few hantavirus variants known to spread, though in a limited way, from human to human. For Nepal, the concern is less about an immediate outbreak and more about preparedness. Rodents are widespread across both urban and rural Nepal, and hospitals regularly treat rodent bite cases. Public health experts say that creates an environment where rodent-borne diseases cannot be ignored. Nepal already battles illnesses like scrub typhus every year, showing how vulnerable the country remains to infections linked to rodents and poor sanitation. Adding to the concern, a medical research paper published in 2020 documented a foreign tourist who became critically ill with hantavirus after returning home from visiting Nepal in 2017. While no outbreak was confirmed inside Nepal, the case suggested the virus may already exist undetected in the country. The challenge, experts say, is that hantavirus testing is not routinely done in Nepal. Its symptoms, fever, body pain, low platelet count, breathing difficulty, and liver complications can resemble dengue, scrub typhus, influenza, or other undiagnosed fevers commonly seen during monsoon and post-monsoon seasons. That means potential infections could easily go unnoticed. Health specialists warn that in today's era of global travel, diseases once considered geographically isolated are no longer distant threats. The world has already seen how viruses such as Ebola and Mpox crossed continents through infected travelers. Even when transmission remains limited, international movement can rapidly turn local outbreaks into global concerns. The cruise ship outbreak is also drawing attention because confined travel environments such as ships, airports, hotels, and crowded cities can increase exposure risks and complicate contact tracing. For Nepal, the message is clear. Even if hantavirus is not currently a confirmed public health emergency, ignoring emerging infectious diseases in an increasingly connected world may carry its own risks. April Lankising-Lama, reporting for NTV World.
Hantavirus is a rare but potentially serious disease spread mainly through contact with infected rodents and contaminated environments. April Lankising-Lama takes a closer look at what hantavirus is, how it spreads, and why health experts are urging caution despite its rarity.
According to the World Health Organization, hantavirus is a rare but potentially serious disease caused by a group of viruses spread mainly through contact with infected rodents and their droppings, urine, or saliva. People can become infected after breathing in contaminated particles, especially in enclosed or poorly ventilated areas such as cabins, barns, storage rooms, or abandoned buildings. The virus was linked to illnesses reported during the Korean War and later identified near the Hantan River in South Korea, from which it gets its name. Different strains of hantavirus have since been found across Asia, Europe, and the Americas, with each strain usually associated with a specific rodent species. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, early symptoms often resemble the flu and may include fever, fatigue, headaches, muscle pain, nausea, and chills. In severe cases, patients can develop breathing problems or kidney-related complications. In the Americas, hantavirus is commonly linked to hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, which affects the lungs. In Europe and Asia, infections are more commonly associated with hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome, which affects the kidneys and blood vessels.
Dans cette hypothèse-là, de toute façon, le virus en lui-même aurait dû être importé depuis le port d'attache, de point de départ ou d'origine des populations. Et à l'heure actuelle, nous n'avons aucune alerte en population générale, et dans ce cas-là, j'ai envie de dire en vie réelle, sur le fait qu'on a une transmission accrue d'une épidémie d'hantavirus sur un des territoires d'où le germe aurait pu provenir. Donc, vraisemblablement, on est face à une situation très singulière due à des conditions techniques, matérielles et de population qui font qu'on a cette chaîne de transmission, mais que finalement, dans des conditions beaucoup plus classiques, les autorités sanitaires des pays concernés n'ont déclaré aucune.
Experts also warn against sweeping or vacuuming rodent droppings, as this can release contaminated particles into the air and increase the risk of infection. Preventive measures such as keeping surroundings clean, safely disinfecting rodent-infested areas, sealing entry points, and storing food properly remain the best ways to reduce risk.
The hantavirus outbreak linked to a cruise ship is raising fresh concerns about how prepared countries like Nepal are to detect rare infectious diseases in an increasingly connected world. Health experts warn limited testing capacity, rising global travel, and widespread rodent exposure could allow potential cases to go unnoticed. We earlier spoke to senior doctor Sher Bahadur Pun to discuss on this matter. Let's have a look. There was an Indian national as well in the cruise ship that we're talking about, and that raises an alarm for neighboring countries like ours. How concerned should Nepal be at the moment?
There's no any reported, the confirmed cases of outbreak in Nepal, in India as well. So we should not worry about right now, but that doesn't mean that we completely ignore about this virus. As you know, this is something like I can say it's unusual that it was outbreak in the cruise ship there, and as long as we know that it's not spread easily human to human.
Considering that the symptoms that we've seen so far of hantavirus, it kind of is similar to other issues such as influenza and even dengue. How do we distinguish between the symptoms and how do we diagnose the disease itself?
We can only identify through the testing system, but unfortunately in Nepal there is no routine testing, at least right now, at the moment. So we need to think about that, and in my view, I think I would say that we must add this, the virus as well. In the routine testing, if the clinician think that the symptom is very similar to hantavirus, so without that we can't say that it's a really hantavirus, because as you say that the currently the outbreak in the cruise ship, they also did the sequencing that the virus, which kind of virus. The hantavirus, within that there is a lot of strain as well. So they identify that the strain that is very common in the Americas, they found that which we know that until now is can be transmit human to humans as well. So I think the testing is much important for us right now.
For our general audience, what would you say would be precautionary measures, if there are any?
It's very simple. I can say right now that's definitely we already talked about that, how the source is the rat, and we must prepare. We can say as a cleaning, we must clean our surrounding so that the rats will not be available there. So I think the hygiene is the main thing.
Hygiene is one major factor that people should consider.
Yeah, consider, yes.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization says monitoring continues after a hantavirus outbreak linked to a cruise ship led to evacuations, while global health experts warn the situation highlights the risk of emerging infectious threats. The outbreak, which affected passengers aboard a cruise ship vessel in Spain's Canary Islands, has resulted in 3 reported deaths and the evacuation of more than 120 people. The WHO says there is no indication of sustained community transmission and global risk remains low.
But they have the sovereignty, so we can't force them to take our protocols. We can only advise and recommend, but I hope they will follow the advice and the recommendations we're making. Thank you.
That wraps up our cover story of the day. On to other news. The Troubled Cooperative Management Committee has started collecting details required to process the return of savings to depositors based on submitted claims. Committee's chair and former Supreme Court Justice Dilli Acharya said depositors are being urged to submit their claims and necessary documents to facilitate the repayment process. The committee says services related to refund procedures and coordination with government or public bodies will be conducted from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. A fixed schedule has been also introduced to manage the high number of service seekers and ensure an orderly process. Services such as grievance handling and issuance of account statements will be available after 3 p.m. The committee has requested all depositors to contact the office with required documents on time and has also pledged that the process will be managed in a systematic and transparent manner. Today, the world observes International Nurses Day, celebrated every year on May 12 to honor the birth anniversary of Florence Nightingale, the pioneer of modern nursing. The day recognizes the essential role nurses play in healthcare systems worldwide, from hospitals and emergency care to community health and disaster response. Established by the International Council of Nurses, this global event highlights both the contributions and challenges faced by nurses across countries. While nurses remain the backbone of healthcare systems, the day also raises an important global question. How can countries ensure better recognition, fair opportunities, and improved working conditions for those who care for the world every day? In India, President Draupadi Murmu has presented the National Florence Nightingale Awards 2026 to 15 nursing professionals in recognition of their contribution to healthcare and public service. The ceremony was held at Rashtrapati Bhawan in New Delhi on International Nurses Day. Instituted in 1973 by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, the awards honor excellence in clinical care, public health, nursing, education and administration across both government and voluntary sectors. This year's recipients were recognized under categories including registered nurses and midwives, registered auxiliary nurses and midwives, and registered lady visitors. The event centered on the theme Our Nurses, Our Future. Empowered nurses save lives. It highlighted the vital role of nurses in strengthening India's healthcare system through dedicated service. Meanwhile, in Nepal, the profession is facing growing concerns. Despite increasing demand for healthcare workers, many nurses report limited opportunities, low pay and insufficient workplace support. As a result, a large number are seeking employment abroad. According to Nepal Nursing Association, more than 40,000 Nepali nurses are currently working overseas. In our Public Pulse segment today, we ask working nurses how working conditions in Nepal can be improved to retain skilled professionals and also strengthen the healthcare system at home.
हामीले दुईटा नर्सेसले 16 वटा पेशेन्ट हेर्छौं सो पेशेन्ट रेशियो छैन अनि हामीले जति सेवाहरू गर्छौं विथ स्माइल भनेर आइराछ नि अहिले त्यो सेवा गरे अनुसारको के भन्ने लाइक त्यस्तो त्यो अनुसारको एप्रिसिएसन्सहरु पनि पाएको छैनम हैन अब एभ्री टाइम अस्ति पनि रिसेन्ट न्यूजमा त्यो नर्सेसहरुलाई त्यसरी स्टेशनमा सबैले के रे आक्रमण गरेर है कस्तो गर्नुभएको थियो त्यो इश्यूजहरु पनि आइरा हुन्छ हैन
हाम्रो एउटा सेल्फ रेस्पेक्ट भन्ने पनि छैन जस्तै हामीले अब एकदम आफ्नो भित्री भावबाट चाहिँ सबैलाई हामी ट्रिटमेन्ट गर्छौं केयर गर्छौं हैन तर त्यो चाहिँ हामीमा अलिकति भिजिटरहरुले अथवा पेशेन्ट पार्टीले देखाउने अलिकति नजर चाहिँ अलि राम्रो छैन हैन
लोकसेवा पास गर्नु भएको थाहै भएको मान्छे नि विदेशीको कारण भनेको मेन भनेको उहाँले चाहिँ अब थाहै जागिर खाँदा खाँदा पनि सरकारी काम गर्दा उहाँलाई एउटा रेस्पेक्ट छँदै छैन हैन अर्को भनेको उहाँहरु स्यालेरीमा स्याटिस्फ्याक्सन हुनु भएकै छैन के
मेन त अब तलबको कुराहरु पनि हुन्छ अनि नर्स र पेशेन्टको रेशियोहरु चाहिँ मिल्या हुँदैन
Schools across Upper Himal rural municipality in Darchula district are closed, and the reason is not a holiday. Hundreds of students have left their classrooms and headed to the high Himalayas, joining their families in annual search for Yarsa Gumba, the rare medicinal fungus that is the lifeline of mountain communities. The municipality has formally shut all community schools for 15 days, that is from May 10th to May 23rd, after education officials acknowledged keeping schools open during Yarsa Gumba season is simply futile, with student attendance falling in fact to near zero. Education Branch Officer Madanraj Joshi says the closure has been adjusted against existing holiday schedules to minimize academic loss. Every year, entire families, including young children, vacate their villages for up to a month, trekking to remote alpine pastures to harvest the fungus, which fetches premium prices and funds an entire year of household expenses. 10 years after Nepal's deadliest earthquakes, a shocking new reality has emerged in Dolakha district, where half of 70,000 government-funded rebuilt homes stand empty, as villages that were reconstructed at enormous public cost are now being abandoned. Subeksha Rajak with Mandira Thapa reports.
A decade ago, the earthquakes of April and May 2015 reduced Dolakha to rubble. The government responded with one of Nepal's largest reconstruction drives, disbursing grants of 300,000 rupees per household to survivors. Of 73,468 registered beneficiaries across the district's 9 local governments, nearly 70,000 signed grant agreements and built new homes. Today, 35,000 of those homes are padlocked, empty, uninhabited, silent. Villages that were rebuilt stone by stone with billions of rupees of public money have been abandoned. The story behind those locked doors is deeply troubling. Many residents had already moved to cities before the earthquake struck. When reconstruction grants became available, they returned to their villages, qualified for the funds, built the houses, and left again. The grant was collected, the door was locked, and the city beckoned once more. It is a pattern repeated across hundreds of villages in Dolakha, and it raises hard questions about who the reconstruction program ultimately served. What makes this exodus even more striking is that the state delivered. Post-earthquake reconstruction did not just rebuild homes. It brought new schools, well-equipped health posts, household water connections, electricity, and road expansion to villages that had never seen such infrastructure before. Yet none of it was enough. The younger generation has left for urban jobs and urban lives, and they are not coming back. Residents now return to their villages just once or twice a year for festivals before disappearing again into the cities. Agricultural land lies fallow. Fields that once fed families are now overgrown, and for the elderly left behind, the crisis is deeply human. When someone falls ill, there are often no neighbors to help. When someone dies, there are barely enough people left in the village to form a funeral procession. The reconstruction program met its physical targets on paper. Homes were built, numbers were reported, files were closed. But the deeper objective, restoring viable, inhabited, thriving communities in earthquake-affected areas, has not been achieved.
International news lined up next. For now, a quick recap of the top stories this hour. At least 4 people dead in a bus accident in Argha Khachi. 3 vehicles collide in Nepal's key highway, leaving 37 injured. Public issues dominate today's House discussion. MPs urge action on inflation, disaster preparedness and protection of citizens' rights. Government announces support classes for struggling SEE candidates, launching preparatory programs soon as low pass percentage raises concern. WHO monitors cruise-linked hantavirus outbreak amid global concerns over emerging risks linked to international movement of people. US sanctions 12 Iran-linked entities over oil sales to China, targets individuals accused of facilitating Iranian oil trade. And Scotland edge Nepal by 2 runs in tense IHCC Men's Cricket League 2 clash. Nepal falls short at 280. Global attention is focused on China as US President Donald Trump prepares for a state visit from May 13 to 15 at the invitation of President Xi Jinping. It is the first US presidential visit in 9 years, with trade, economic ties and global stability expected to dominate talks amid shifting geopolitics. Analysts say the visit could play a key role in shaping future China-US relations, with trade, economic cooperation and global stability expected to dominate discussions. Ahead of the visit, both countries also held high-level economic and trade consultations in South Korea, while a delegation of major American business leaders was expected to accompany Trump to Beijing. Hezbollah's leader Naim Qassem has said the group's weapons will not be part of upcoming negotiations, calling them an internal matter. He also warned of continued resistance if conflict escalates, even as diplomatic discussions continue in the region aimed, in fact, at easing tensions. His remarks come as tensions persist on the ground in Lebanon, even as diplomatic efforts continue toward de-escalation. Meanwhile, Qatar's foreign minister and prime minister has warned against using the Strait of Hormuz as a political pressure tool. Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani said no country should blackmail Gulf states through control of the key shipping route amid rising regional tensions.
Iran should not use this strait as a weapon to pressure or to blackmail the Gulf countries. It's an international water corridor that should be always protected and should be always safeguarded.
Business news coming up next. For now, a short breather.
Sri Lanka once again raised electricity prices as the country struggled with mounting energy costs linked to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. From Monday, power tariffs increased by up to 18% for households and institutions consuming more than 180 units of electricity a month, while lower-income users were spared from the hike. Industries, hotels, businesses, government offices, and places of worship were also affected. The increase came just weeks after a separate 40% tariff hike alongside sharp fuel price increases and rationing measures. Officials said the higher costs were driven by greater reliance on thermal power generation amid global energy supply disruptions. Sri Lanka is still recovering from its 2022 economic crises, and last year's devastating cyclone faced renewed pressure on its fragile recovery despite support from a $2.9 billion IMF bailout program. Vietnam's agriculture and fishery sectors reported strong export performance, maintaining a trade surplus in the first nearly 5 months of the year. Asia remained the largest market, followed by the Americas and Europe, while the fisheries sector aimed for 8 to 10% growth, with export revenue expected to exceed $12 billion. Fruit and vegetable exports surpassed $2 billion, up 22% year-on-year, with China remaining the biggest market. The Republic of Korea, the United States, Japan, and the Middle East also recorded growth of 15 to 20%. Meanwhile, pepper exports neared the $1 billion mark, driven by a 25 to 30% rise in both output and export value. A major restaurant chain in Hong Kong expanded its soft meal service from nursing homes to hospitals, aiming to make dining easier and safer for elderly people with chewing or swallowing difficulties. After serving more than 150 nursing homes since the previous year, the group planned to introduce the meals at the Baptist Hospital restaurant later that year, with hopes of eventually reaching public hospitals as well. The company also unveiled new menu items, including an abalone and sea cucumber dish, a red bean longevity peach bun, and custard buns. More than 100 seniors, family members, and volunteers were invited to sample the meals during the launch event. Hong Kong's Secretary for Labour and Welfare, Chris Sun, said around 13,600 elderly people had benefited from the soft meal program by the end of the previous year. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella told a U.S. court he was very proud of Microsoft's early investment in OpenAI as he testified in Elon Musk's lawsuit against the ChatGPT maker. Musk alleged that OpenAI had abandoned its original non-profit mission and had improperly used his $38 million in early funding to build a massive for-profit business now valued in the hundreds of billions of dollars. He sought to force OpenAI back into non-profit control, arguing Microsoft had benefited from its commercial shift. Nadella defended the partnership, saying Microsoft had taken risks that paid off as both organizations had benefited from a rapidly growing AI industry. The trial also revealed internal tensions during OpenAI's 2023 leadership crises. Former CEO Sam Altman was expected to testify next, with a jury advisory verdict due later in the month.
Time now for sports update. U.S. city of Houston is stepping up preparations as it gears up to host matches for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, with 7 games scheduled at NRG Stadium, which will be referred to as Houston Stadium during the tournament. A natural grass pitch is being installed to meet FIFA standards as part of major upgrades across the venue. City officials expect around 500,000 visitors and forecast an estimated $1.1 billion economic impact. The build-up comes as the one-month countdown begins for the 23rd FIFA World Cup, which will be co-hosted for the first time by the US, Canada and Mexico. A record 48 teams will compete in the expanded format. Now the weather details, first from across Nepal and then the world. Before wrapping up, here's a reminder of our top stories. At least 4 people die in a bus accident in Arghakhachi. 3 vehicles collide in Nepal's key highway, leaving 37 injured. Public issues dominate today's House discussion. MPs urge action on inflation, disaster preparedness and protection of citizens' rights. Government announces support classes for struggling SEE candidates to launch preparatory programs as low pass percentage raises concerns. WHO monitors cruise-linked hantavirus outbreak amid global concerns over emerging risks linked to international movement of people. US sanctions 12 Iran-linked entities over oil sales to China, targets individuals accused of facilitating Iranian oil trade. And Scotland edged Nepal by 2 runs in tense ICC Men's Cricket League 2 clash. Nepal falls short at 218. That brings us to the end of this edition of News Hour here on NTV World. Do join us through our social media pages and also visit our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai. Thanks for staying with us. Good night.